Do you have a consumer-related issue? Want to learn more about matters concerning you as a consumer? Well, keep it locked to Nationwide 90 FM for the Consumer Hour with me, Nora Gay Banton. Weekdays from 9 to 10 a.m. For all your consumer-centric matters, stay tuned to the Consumer Hour on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
Ready to tackle that building project? Start right. Start here at H&L Rapid True Value for building supplies. The time by H&L Rapid True Value is
Nationwide time, 5 o'clock.
Learn about smart betting strategies with AnyBet. Bet wisely, enjoy responsibly, and maximize your success. The temperature by AnyBet is...
It's 32 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 29 in Montego Bay.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Roby Ann Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
In Nationwide News at this hour, Integrity Commission Chair says there's insufficient evidence to prove allegations of bias and improper conduct at the anti-corruption body.
Retired Justice Carol Lawrence Beswick wrote a response to leaders of the government business in the lower and upper houses of Parliament on Monday.
JFJ says comments from Sergeant Arlene McBean criticizing the group over concerns about police fatal shootings are unintelligent and reckless.
The comments are deeply disappointing, inappropriate, reckless, and the comment itself is an unintelligent one.
No bail for licensed firearm holder who allegedly killed 2 women and injured 3 others at candlelight vigil.
Sissoko says teen pregnancies remain a significant issue even though it's on the decline.
In news from the rest of the world, 11 in the race to replace Erla Harewood Christopher as Police Commissioner of Trinidad and Tobago.
Zelensky urges Trump to visit Ukraine before making a deal with Russia to end the war.
In headline sports, Jamaica begins quest for regional under-15 cricket title against the champions on Tuesday.
And later in our broadcast, in our cover story at 5:35, Chairman of the Integrity Commission, retired Justice Carol Lawrence Beswick, has responded to the government's letter expressing concern about the appointment of Ranif Lawrence as Acting Director of Corruption Prosecution at the Commission. You'll hear her response.
Also in the cover story, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness has accepted that the goal of transforming Jamaica into a republic at this time is dead.
The dream of many Jamaicans of our country becoming a republic has been dashed at the altar of PNP selfishness.
Members of the Constitutional Reform Committee, Dr. Nadine Spence and Hugh Small, will join us.
In Public Opinion at 6:26, we ask, is the government overreacting to the appointment of Ranif Lawrence to the Integrity Commission? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio and message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90 FM.
At 7, MP for Central Manchester, Rhoda Moy Crawford, says the PNP winning all of the divisions in last February's local government elections should not be used as a guide as to the likely outcome of the next general election.
All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile, Nationwide 90 FM, Nationwide Radio JM.com, and on the Nationwide app available on Google Play and the App Store. This Monday afternoon, it's Monday, April 14, 2025.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
Now the details. Chairman of the Integrity Commission, retired Justice Carol Lawrence Beswick, says she needs more information to address concerns raised by the leaders of government business in the lower and upper houses of Parliament. Leader of Government Business in Parliament Edmund Bartlett and Leader of Government Business in the Senate Kamina Johnson-Smith wrote a joint letter to Mrs. Lawrence Beswick last week, Friday. The 2 senior parliamentarians voiced their displeasure with the selection of Ranif Lawrence as Acting Director of Corruption Prosecution and his potential permanent appointment to the post. Mrs. Lawrence Beswick wrote a response to the senior parliamentarians on Monday. Siobhan Campbell tells us more.
In a letter last Friday, leaders of government business in the upper and lower houses, Edmund Bartlett and Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, wrote to retired Justice Carol Lawrence Beswick registering particular and serious concerns held by their government colleagues. These include the appointment of Mr. Ranif Lawrence as Acting Director of Corruption Prosecution. Mr. Lawrence has been styled by General Secretary of the People's National Party, Dr. Dayton Campbell, as his friend of over 20 years in a social media post on January 26 of this year. Dr. Campbell's post contained a photograph of him in the company of Ranif Lawrence at what appeared to be Lawrence's wedding. The two senior legislators says it's a matter of public record that in late 2024, Dr. Campbell used a political platform to make particular comments about a case which it subsequently came to public attention was being considered for investigation by the Integrity Commission. Bartlett and Johnson-Smith tell Justice Lawrence Beswick that they do not for a moment question the professional qualifications of Ranif Lawrence. But they say, given his 20-year friendship with the PNP General Secretary, any decision taken by Ranif Lawrence concerning members of the political fraternity will certainly be open to question. However, Justice Lawrence Beswick says any such interrogation would have to be conducted as fairly, impartially, and transparently as possible. She says justice would no doubt have to be done not only in the eyes of the parliamentarians, but also in the eyes of the persons against whom a complaint or allegation is being made. The retired justice says a primary component of a carefully conducted interrogation is relevant, cogent evidence. She says in the view of the fact that they agree that they do not question any individual's constitutional right of association, any question about Lawrence's decision-making and or suitability for filling the post must therefore be considered with that right in mind. She says any decision taken by the Commission should be open to be questioned by the public, including political parties, as to the manner in and the basis on which the decision was taken. She goes on to say the Commission is mindful of the fact that its decisions are open to scrutiny and thus operates under the policy that any conflicts of interest are declared, and where they exist, the employee recuses him or herself and thereafter has nothing to do with that particular matter. Further, in responding to the concerns regarding the utterances of Dr. Dayton Campbell, the Commission chairman says their description lacks sufficient details to allow her to determine of what they speak. Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, Justice Lawrence Beswick also cited insufficient information in response to the letter requesting her to interrogate the manner in which Director of Corruption Prosecution Keisha Prince Kamika left the post at the Integrity Commission. The leaders of government business in the upper and lower houses noted media reports which suggest she came under pressure due to her decisions surrounding a probe into Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness's statutory declarations. The Integrity Commission chairman says there is no reference to a particular decision that has caused their concern. Mahiri Stewart has that story.
Retired Justice Carol Lawrence Beswick says the extent to which the alleged pressure may have contributed to Keisha Prince Kamika not seeking renewal in the post requires the input of the former corruption prosecution director herself. She notes that the former director's 5-year statutory term of office with the commission has already ended. The chairman of the Integrity Commission says her attention has not been brought to any complaint or even comment made by Mrs. Prince Kamika either to the Commission or to any other entity concerning the questions she's been asked to interrogate. Justice Lawrence Beswick says in order for there to be a fair, impartial, and transparent interrogation, there not only needs to be the specific questions, which the senior parliamentarians have in fact posed, but equally importantly, there must be specific cogent information from which the interrogation can be commenced. Meanwhile, the Integrity Commission chairman gave a similar response to the concern regarding reports over the resignation of a senior investigator from the commission. Nationwide News understands the senior investigator played a key role in the probe into the Prime Minister's statutory declarations. Our sources say she left because of a fundamental difference of opinions with key colleagues about aspects of her work. However, Justice Lawrence Beswick says unfortunately this concern, as outlined, is bereft of sufficient details to adequately inform an inquiry. She says actions of the Integrity Commission which cause concern will receive the urgent attention of the Commission, provided that it is given cogent and unequivocal information on which it can rely. Mahiri Stewart For Nationwide News, Executive Director of Jamaicans for Justice JFJ, Mikel Jackson, says the group will not be deterred in its stance to advocate for accountability over the alarming increase in fatal police shootings. She was responding to comments made by Chairman of the Jamaica Police Federation, Sergeant Arlene McBean, accusing the group of fighting against the JCF. Ms. Jackson described the comments as unintelligent and reckless. Shalois Michael reports.
Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ, has been vocal about what it describes as the intolerable increase in police fatal shootings since the start of the year. 94 people have been killed during alleged police confrontations since January 1. Of that figure, 13 were recorded in April. This represents a 165% increase compared to the corresponding period last year, when 38 police fatal shootings were recorded. The Human Rights Lobby Group has announced a planned protest later this month over the rise in police killings. But speaking at a funeral service over the weekend, Chairman of the Jamaica Police Federation, Sergeant Arlene McBean, blasted JFJ, urging them to get the correct facts about police fatal shootings.
JFJ or whatever J you are, let it be a joyous moment and go and get the facts. In 25 years, we have never seen a reduction at the end of February so low. I am going to send a message to Jamaica for Justice. Don't be a part of the problem, be a part of the solution. I would love for you to have the placard telling men and women who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, thank you. I would love for you to have placard to speak to the family of police officers who have been gunned down by criminals. If you can't do that, I classify you as a true terrorist.
Sergeant McBean further accused the JFJ of conveniently ignoring the fact that over 80% of all police shootings were ruled justifiable. But her remarks did not go down well with JFJ's Executive Director, Mikel Jackson.
The comments are deeply disappointing, inappropriate, reckless, and the comment itself is an unintelligent one because it undermines the principles of democracy, wherein organizations like a human rights one can levy reasonable criticisms against the police force in light of the alarming numbers that we have flagged. And with that in mind, we have been calling for body-worn cameras. We have been calling for a timeline within which the data storage infrastructure would be in place to ensure that we can have increased deployment of the body-worn cameras. And to attack a human rights organization on the basis of making those calls, again, unfortunate.
Ms. Jackson, who was speaking during the JFJ-produced show Let's Talk Justice, aired on Nationwide 90 FM on Monday, says the group will not be deterred in its mandate to speak out against injustice.
Labeling us as terrorist organization will not result in us shying away from our mandate. And I've said this before, we stand firm in our purpose. Criticisms can be made, but they must be made responsibly. We would urge the Police Federation to do better. But again, we look forward to dialogue just the same. And just as though the Police Federation is urging for dialogue, our offices remain open.
Shalois Michael for Nationwide News.
Licensed firearm holder Patrick Thompson, who allegedly killed 2 women and injured 3 others in February at a candlelight vigil in Mandeville, was denied bail when he appeared in the Manchester Parish Court on Monday. Thompson's attorney, King's Counsel Peter Champagny, had made a bail application for him on April 2. In delivering the decision, presiding judge Monique Harrison pointed to the serious charges of murder against Thompson and the allegations surrounding the February 23 incident. Robian Williams reports.
Justice Monique Harrison pointed to the prosecution's submission of the prevalence of gun violence in Manchester as another ground on which to deny Patrick Thompson bail. Thompson was remanded in custody and is set to reappear in court on July 2. His attorney, King's Counsel Peter Champagny, says he will be appealing the decision in the Supreme Court.
The decision of the court must be respected, but also any accused has the right in these circumstances to appeal the decision of a court that has so found, and therefore we will be invoking that right, and notification was given and the reasons were supplied. But we are nevertheless respectful of the court's position, but we will be seeking to have it tested elsewhere in the Supreme Court in terms of bail.
Thompson, otherwise called Big T or Tomo, is an engineer of Caledonia District in the parish. He's charged with murder, attempted murder, wounding with intent, assault occasioning actual bodily harm, and possession of a firearm and ammunition with intent to commit injury. The deceased are 42-year-old Stacey Ann Mulgrave and 46-year-old Anne-Marie Hanson. Reports from the Mandeville police are that at about midnight on February 23, Thompson was at a candlelight vigil when he and a man got into an argument over a motor vehicle accident. The argument escalated, causing a crowd. It's alleged that Thompson, who is a licensed firearms holder, opened gunfire at the crowd, hitting multiple persons before leaving the area. The injured persons were assisted to the hospital, where Mulgrave and Hanson were pronounced dead and the others were admitted for treatment. The incident was reportedly captured on CCTV camera. But KC Champagny says up to this point, he's yet to see the main footage of how the shooting unfolded.
There has been absolutely no update, and it's very coincidental. It's an affront actually to common sense. We're in such circumstances of the 13 clips. The one that is supposed to show exactly what happened is missing. But to re-emphasize my response to you, there has not been any update whatsoever in relation to that.
KC Champagny maintains that his client was attacked. Robeanne Williams for Nationwide News. You're listening to Nationwide News at 5. More news after these.
Celebrate 26 years with IQ Optical. Enjoy 26% off your prescription eyewear and sunglasses this month only. Book your appointment or take your prescription to IQ Optical in New Kingston, Manor Park, or Drexel. Conditions apply. The time by IQ Optical is
16 minutes after 5.
Rentokil Initial offers air purification solutions with triple filtration and unique auto-sensing capabilities that neutralizes malodor and replaces it with clean air. Call Rentokil Initial at 926-4236 for more details.
The temperature by Rentokil is...
It's 32 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 28 in Montego Bay.
Outperform, outlast. With top performance. Jackhammer. Reliable, full stop, not comma. We have the expertise for drilling and demolition. We have the power tools for plumbers and electrician. Fan select tools, 3 parts and 3 repairs. 3 parts, 3 repairs. 2 to 3 years. Hilton, available at Delta Supply, 106 Hagley Park Road. Call us at 876-302-61114. Delta Supply, we service what we sell.
The future is here. Meet your new best friend, the Samsung Galaxy S25. Unlock your true potential with this powerful but sleek AI companion. The S25 has exciting features such as the enhanced AI and camera. Let's transform the future together. Ask about our trade-in, smart payment, and insurance protection plans. Get yours today at select digital stores, Crossroads, Tropical Plaza, Spanish Town, downtown, and also available at the SMS store, 12 Ruthven Road, Kingston 10. SMS Group is your gateway to technology.
Continuing the news, a flash flood watch remains in effect for low-lying and flood-prone areas of 5 parishes across the island. The Met Service says the advisory will remain in effect until 7 p.m. today, Monday. The affected parishes are St. Mary, Portland, St. Catherine, Clarendon, and Manchester. The Met Service says a trough across the central and western Caribbean has been generating unstable weather conditions across the island since Friday. Satellite images and rainfall reports indicate that periods of showers and thunderstorms have been affecting mainly eastern and central parishes. The forecast is for periods of showers and thunderstorms to continue until Tuesday. Windy conditions are also expected across northern parishes. The Met Office says the unstable weather will increase across western parishes on Tuesday. Fishers and other marine interests are urged to exercise caution as sea conditions will deteriorate.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
10 police officers and 1 soldier from the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force have been interviewed for the post of police commissioner. A series of tests and final interviews were completed by the Police Service Commission in recent months. According to media reports, the final interviews for the position were conducted between March 17 and 21. Following the recruitment process, the Commission will shortlist candidates. However, with Parliament temporarily dissolved and the general election scheduled for April 28, it's uncertain whether the current selection process will continue. Suspended Police Commissioner Erla Harewood Christopher is awaiting the outcome of a criminal probe which led to her arrest in January. That probe is centered on the granting of an import license to secure high-powered weapons for the Security Services Agency. Harewood Christopher was released on February 1.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has invited his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump to visit his country before any deal is struck with Russia to end the war. Zelensky made the request during an interview for CBS's 60 Minutes program. The interview was recorded before a Russian missile hit the city of Sumy on Sunday. The incident killed 35 people and injured 117 others. Without providing evidence, Russia said it fired 2 missiles at a meeting of Ukrainian soldiers, killing 60 of them. President Trump says he had been told it was a mistake, but did not specify who told him. The attack comes as the U.S., Ukraine's strongest military ally, has been pursuing an end to the war through negotiation under Trump. It remains to be seen if Trump will accept Zelensky's invitation.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, Integrity Commission Chair says there's insufficient evidence to prove allegations of bias and improper conduct at the anti-corruption body.
Retired Justice Carol Lawrence Beswick wrote a response to leaders of government business in the lower and upper houses of Parliament on Monday.
JFJ says comments from Sergeant Arlene McBean criticizing the group over its concern about police fatal shootings are unintelligent and reckless.
The comments are deeply disappointing, inappropriate, reckless, and the comment itself is an unintelligent one.
That is JFJ. I'm Robianne Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
You can find the news on our website at nationwideradiojm.com and on the Nationwide app available on Google Play and the App Store. News next, the headlines at 6.
When I got my first traffic ticket, I forgot to pay it within 30 days, and I had to go to court. Thank God I went, because if I didn't show, I would have been arrested. Pay your ticket early and avoid penalties. If you have questions or concerns, contact the Jamaica Constabulary Force's Traffic Ticket Processing Unit via WhatsApp at 876-0270 or call 876-928-1162 or email ttpu@jcf.gov.jm. A message from the Ministry of National Security.
The benefits of the NWC debt amnesty will continue to flow for another 2 months. Oh yes, from now until May 31, you may qualify for debt write-offs. Also, if your residential account has been disconnected for 6 months or more, you may qualify. Pensioners, past beneficiaries, and those with commercial accounts may also qualify. So, what are you waiting for? Dial 888-225-5692 or visit a commercial office today to find out if you qualify. The NWC debt amnesty, a part of our bucket full of goodies.
Sports at 5 is brought to you by Total Tools. They almost always have it.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. The West Indies Rising Stars Under-15 cricket competition bowls off on Tuesday in Antigua with a full schedule of games. 6 regional teams will battle over 5 rounds of 50-over cricket to determine the regional champions. Jamaica will open their campaign against defending champions Barbados at the Liberta Sports Ground, and it starts at 8:30 a.m. Jamaica time. In all the first-round games, the Leeward Islands will battle against the Windward Islands at Coolidge, while Trinidad and Tobago, which is led by Kieran Pollard's son Caden, and they'll square off with Guyana at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium. The West Indies' chances of qualifying for the ICC 50-over Cricket World Cup later this year, we're talking about the Women's World Cup, is hanging by a thread after they went down by 65 runs to Pakistan at the qualifiers in Lahore on Monday. The defeat was the team's second after they were beaten by Scotland in their first game. The West Indies must now win their 2 remaining games against unbeaten Bangladesh on Thursday and winless Thailand on Saturday, and then hope other results go their way if they are to qualify. Coach Shane Dace believes the team did not play up to its full potential against Pakistan.
Obviously, disappointing result, and we were second best tonight. We started really well with the ball and restricted them to 190 on pretty good pitch, which obviously was deteriorating a little bit. So we did the first part right. It's probably the best we bowled and fielded the whole time. And then all we needed was a really good start, and we would have chased those runs down. But we lost the wicket first ball, and then 2 unusual run-outs put us really behind the 8 ball. And then Pakistan bowled really well on what was a turning pitch towards the end, and we just never got partnerships together to chase that runs down.
The Windies sits 4th on the 16 table with 2 points from 3 starts, and Dace is only too aware of the task facing the team in its quest to qualify.
But we've just got to focus on finishing well, playing some really good cricket and giving our fans something to cheer about, because obviously we've let them down, let ourselves down, let all our fans back in the Caribbean down, which is real disappointing. But that's cricket. We've got to fight back. That's the only way to do it, is train hard, get together, stick together as a team. Came out fighting the last 2 games, and hopefully a few things go away and a miracle can happen. But so all we've got to do is play well last few games and finish this tournament well, and then regroup and see where we go from there.
That's Shane Dates, West Indies women's cricket team coach. Cricket's world governing body, the ICC, is considering a change to the existing 2-ball playing conditions in one-day internationals in a bid to restore some balance between bat and ball in the format. A recommendation has been made to use only 1 ball from the 35th over of an innings. The recommendation was made by the ICC Men's Cricket Committee, headed by Saurav Ganguly, to board chief executives at an ICC meeting in Harare, Zimbabwe. Each innings will start with 2 new balls, as is the case at the moment, but in the recommendation, the fielding side will be allowed to select which ball they wish to carry on with after the 34th over. The ball that is not chosen will then be kept as a spare ball in case it is needed. The Cricket Committee considering making the ball change earlier after 25 overs, but that did not find favour within the committee, which felt using a ball for 17 overs before deciding which to use was more appropriate. Boards are expected to give their feedback on the tweak by the end of this month. If there's a consensus, it will be formalized in the playing conditions, most likely at the ICC's annual general meeting in July. There was also discussion in committee about switching the Under-19 Men's World Cup, currently played in the 50-over format, to T20. Members of the committee also discussed a bonus points reward in the World Test Championship, though the prevalent view around that was that it would be complicated to implement. Mount Pleasant FC and Chapelton Maroons are goalless, approaching 25 minutes in their Ray and Nephew Jamaica Premier League encounter at the Tony Spalding Sports Complex. Mount Pleasant Academy, they lead the standings with 78 points and 9 ahead of Montego Bay United, who will play Racing United in the second game of the doubleheader. That one gets going at 7:45. Mobay United are 2 points clear of Arnett Gardens in the battle for the second automatic semi-final berth and can move into a much stronger position if they bag all 3 points. Yesterday, Portmore United beat Arnett Gardens by 2-1. Malines defeated Dunby Holding 2-0. Harbourview and Cavalier played out a 2-2 draw. Tivoli beat Vere by 2-1. And Waterhouse, they clipped Humberline by 1-0. Bournemouth returned to winning ways and moved up to 8th in the English Premier League with a 1-0 win over Fulham today. The Cherries led inside the opening minute as Antoine Semenyo scored his first league goal since January, a lead the hosts carried into the break.
Here's Semenyo,
Might be an early chance for Bournemouth here. It's an early goal, beautifully tucked away inside the first minute. That's just what they needed after this run of poor home form.
The win moved the Cherries to 48 points, level with Fulham and Brighton and Hove Albion, but above both teams thanks to a superior goal difference. And finally in sports at this time, the Toriano, the Medic Nicholas, will take on Daniel Don Hilton in the feature bout of the 3-fight card dubbed Boxing in the Arena at Big Bike Complex in Woodhall, Clarendon on April 20. Both men will be competing in the lightweight division, and we'll tell you a lot more on this card when we come back with our major sports cast at 6:05 this evening.
Sports at 5 was brought to you by Total Tools. They almost always have it.
Since 2016, 253,000 more Jamaicans are working. That's 28,000 new jobs each year. We are building Jamaica. The time by the Office of the Prime Minister is
5:30.
Enough power tool, big to small. Jackama figure dig the wall.
Our Total Tools.
Deep worker figure trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand.
Total Tools.
We rent them, sell them and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When I say home improvement, landscape construction, a Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option.
Total Tools, located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Slipe Road, Kingston.
And lot C6 Jacksaw, Sentence Bay. Call us today.
Don't fall victim to deepfakes.
Watch out.
Protect yourself.
What is the
For more
TV?
information, visit broadcastingcommission.org or
Here,
scan
baby.
the QR code on screen.
Deepfake. No deepfake can't catch me.
Junior, you know say AI can make something will look and sound just like you? One day Junior get a voice note from her granny. Say the food done, the medication done, and she need money urgently.
Need money urgently? But Miss Pat no like ask people for things.
And as so comes, Judy get suspicious.
So what she do?
She asks the neighbor to go check pan her. Junior, the lady quite alright over there make her Sunday dinner.
So the voice note a deep fake?
Yes, my love. Come, your food ready.
Right now it look like we have to outsmart the AI. But wait, I really want dege dumpling here, give me.
Me I wonder if AI can make one deep fake dumpling for you.
To learn more about deepfakes, visit www.broadcastingcommission.org.
You ever get bun yet? The bun was sweet so much you can't resist. Me not talk about heartbreak. Me not talk about the bun with full of spice, raisin, and the perfect glaze. Mother's Bakery Easter bun. This is the bun where everybody need this Easter. If you don't get bun, you not live life right. Mother's Bakery Easter bun. Get the best type of bun from the right people. Mother's Bakery Easter bun. The bun you have to get with love in every bite. Available in select supermarkets.
What makes a burrito bun so attractive?
We have a history of strong financial performance and growth, demonstrating resilience.
Our leverage remains low relative to our peers.
The bond is available in both Jamaican and US dollars, ranging from tenures between 2 to 10 years at attractive interest rates. Plus, it's expected to be listed, which will enhance liquidity for all investors.
Burrito bonds are burrito strong. Download our prospectus, call a burrito advisor, and invest today.
Big news! The Big Bite Food Safety Show now airs on Nationwide 90 FM with your host, Alison Richards, the Food Safety Girl. Join Alison every Tuesday from 1 to 2 p.m. as she serves up expert advice, tips, and insights on everything food safety. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and remember, food safety is everybody's business. Don't miss a bite of the action. Tuesdays at 1 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. Join us on the next episode for Street Food Chronicles. Are you being jerked over?
Cover Story is brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
Multilink. Access every time, everywhere I go. Multilink. 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use Multilink. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere. Spend while supporting the economy.
Look for the Multilink logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network.
Multilink. 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my Multilink?
Good afternoon, listeners and viewers. It's 5:34, a Monday. Welcome to The Cover Story. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And I'm Donna Hope.
And good afternoon, Madam Hope. How are you?
I am very well. Happy Monday.
I trust you had an enjoyable weekend.
It was restful and it was productive.
That's all we can hope for when it comes to the weekends. Although, I don't know about productive. I like my weekends to just be restful.
Well, I try to rest, but I'm always trying to produce. So it's a little bit of both. I rested a lot. So now we're in the business of everything. A lot of excitement.
Well, listeners, I remember last Friday, I believe we brought you that letter from the two leaders of government business, both in the upper and lower house, regarding their concerns over certain aspects of the Integrity Commission. Well, the Integrity Commission's chairman, that's Carol Lawrence Beswick, has responded, and she says she needs more information to address concerns raised by those leaders. The leader of government business in Parliament, Edmund Bartlett, and leader of government business in the Senate, Kamina Johnson-Smith, wrote a joint letter to Mrs. Lawrence Beswick last week. The two senior parliamentarians voiced their displeasure with the selection of Ranif Lawrence as acting director of corruption prosecution and his potential permanent appointment to the post. Mrs. Lawrence Beswick wrote a response to the senior parliamentarians today, and we are now going to go through that letter response.
Yes. Dear House and Senate government leaders, and this is the response to the letter dated April 11, 2025, from the leaders of government business in the upper and lower houses of Parliament. I acknowledge receipt of your email and letter to me dated April 11, 2025, in which you indicate, in quotations, particular and serious concerns held by your government colleagues, close quotes, and in which you request my urgent intervention for a prompt and thorough interrogation of the concerns which you detail. I am certainly amenable to addressing the concerns which you have sent for the Integrity Commission's attention insofar as the Integrity Commission Act allows. In short, they concern the perceived, alleged, and or actual bias of the Commission's acting director of corruption prosecution, Ranif Lawrence, and the alleged unacceptable pressure being allegedly exerted on certain Commission staff members to cause certain decisions to be made.
In referencing the letter that was sent to the Commission, she says, I am heartened by the fact that we have a belief in certain principles which you have embraced in your communication and which I regard as being fundamental to any interrogation by the Commission. These important principles were well expressed by you and I adopt them. Namely, 1, we do not for a moment question Mr. Lawrence's professional qualifications. 2, we do not question any individual's constitutional right of association. 3, nor do we seek to interfere in the operations of the Commission. 4, justice should not only be done, but should be seen to be manifestly and demonstrably done. 5, the Integrity Commission's success depends greatly on the public's confidence and trust, which cannot be sustained if there is a perception of bias or other improper conduct of its affairs. And 6, fairness, professionalism, and justice are to be allowed to prevail at the Integrity Commission and to be seen to so prevail. And 7, we trust that truth and justice will prevail.
And in continuing the letter, we are therefore agreed that any such interrogation would have to be conducted as fairly, impartially, and transparently as is possible. Justice would no doubt have to be done, not only in the eyes of the parliamentarians, but also in the eyes of the persons against whom complaint or allegation is being made. A primary component of a carefully conducted interrogation is relevant, cogent evidence. The first concern to which you refer in the communication is regarding Mr. Ranif Lawrence's appointment as acting director of corruption prosecution at the Integrity Commission and his possible permanent appointment to the post. You provide that one basis for concern is a social media post on January 26 this year by Dr. Dayton Campbell, which is being widely circulated, and describing Mr. Lawrence as his friend of over 20 years. You conclude, based on your belief in the accuracy of that social media post, that any decision taken by Mr. Lawrence in respect of members of the political fraternity will certainly be open to question. In view of the fact that we agree that we do not have questioned any individual's constitutional right of association, Any question about his decision-making and/or suitability for filling that appointment must therefore be considered with that right in mind.
The letter goes on to say, indeed, any decision taken by the Commission should be open to be questioned by the public, including political parties, as to the manner in and the basis on which the decision was taken. A complete answer should be provided as far as the Integrity Commission Act allows. No doubt your parliamentary colleagues will recall that it was your good selves who placed certain restrictions on what can lawfully be revealed by the Commission, stating at Section 56 of the Integrity Commission Act that the person concerned in the administration of this act, and it goes on, shall regard and deal with as a secret and confidential all information, statutory declarations, government contracts, prescribed licenses, and all other matters relating to any matter before the Commission. The Commission says it is mindful of the fact that its decisions are open to scrutiny and thus operates under the policy that any conflicts of interests are declared, and where they exist, the employee recuses him or herself and thereafter has nothing to do with that particular matter.
And in continuing the letter, another basis for your concern about Mr. Lawrence's appointment to the post in question rests on what you describe as public record, that in late 2024, Dr. Campbell used a political platform to make particular comments about a case which it subsequently came into public attention was being considered for pursuit by the Integrity Commission. No doubt you will readily understand that your description above lacks sufficient details to allow me to determine of what you speak. I note your next concern is about media reports which suggest that the contract of former Director of Corruption Prosecution was not renewed in the circumstance where she came under pressure to not seek renewal of her contract due to a lawful decision she made. Again, there is no reference to the particular decision that has caused your concern.
The letter says the questions you wish to be interrogated are specified as being, and quote, whether the former corruption prosecution director in fact came under pressure due to her lawful decision, from whence did that pressure emanate, and the extent to which that alleged pressure may have contributed to her not seeking renewal in the post, despite her being widely known to be of excellent repute in the conduct of her profession to date, end quote. The letter says it is clear that the answers to these questions require the input of the former corruption prosecution director herself, whose 5-year statutory term of office with the Commission has already ended. It says, my attention has not been brought to any complaint or even comment made by her, either to the Commission or to any other entity, concerning the questions you asked to be interrogated. It says, in order for there to be a fair, impartial, and transparent interrogation, there not only needs to be the specific questions which you have in fact posed, but equally importantly, there must be specific cogent information from which the interrogation can be commenced.
And the letter continues, I also note your deep concern about widely circulated reports in both traditional and social media, which suggest that a senior investigator resigned from the Commission after a statement she had submitted to the Commission was excluded from a report submitted by the Commission to the Parliament of Jamaica due to the intervention of an influential official at the Commission. You say further that the report suggests that the formal statement submitted by the investigator had raised serious concerns about unethical practices during the conduct of a certain probe of high public interest. Here again, you suggest that this matter be the subject of inquiry by the Commission, or should greater independence be required in the interest of justice in the particular circumstances, any other relevant agency. More particularly, you state inquiry should be made as to whether these media reports are accurate, and if so, whether the official who allegedly caused the ensured the exclusion of the statement in question from the report to Parliament is still employed to the Commission, and indeed, whether the individual misconducted himself in public office.
The letter goes on to say, unfortunately, this concern as outlined in your communication is bereft of sufficient details to adequately inform an inquiry. The urgent intervention which you seek for, a prompt and thorough interrogation of the mentioned matters, can only be fairly done with cogent specific information. At the same time, it says, I know that I need not remind you of Section 6 of the Integrity Commission Act, which provides in part as follows. In the exercise of its power and performance of its functions under this Act, the Commission, A, shall not be subject to the direction or control of any other person or authority other than the court by way of judicial review. The letter goes on to say, nonetheless, I hasten to add that I remain committed to open communication where the Integrity Commission is concerned, insofar as the Integrity Commission Act allows. It says, actions of the Integrity Commission which cause you or indeed the general public concern will receive the urgent attention of the Commission, provided that the Commission is given cogent and unequivocal information on which it can rely. She ends by saying, I look forward to the Commission working together with the members of the Houses of Parliament in accordance with the laws of natural justice and above all in strict compliance with the Integrity Commission Act as promulgated by your good selves. Our goal is the same, a corruption-free Jamaica, and it says, respectfully, it's signed Carol Lawrence Beswick, CD, Chairman of the Integrity Commission.
And there we have it.
My simple reading of this letter, it was a very, very polite and respectable way of saying
we need
there's
evidence.
Nothing to see here.
Right. We need evidence for all of this. Really what he's saying. A very long and very polite response to say, if you are making these allegations, these claims, provide us with some basis on which to go forward.
Yes.
That's really it. So we are supposed to be taking a quick break and come right back.
The NWC's amnesty package has been extended. You now have until May 31 to see if you qualify. Call 888-225-5692. The time by the NWC is...
It's 5:45.
Fried chicken. Burrata! Buy a 3-piece hat-trick meal and get an extra piece free for a limited time only is...
It's 30 degrees Celsius here in the capital city, Kingston, and 28 out west in Montego Bay.
We are the best at what we do. At Hose Assembly and Supply Limited, we supply hose fittings and tools. We guarantee we can't be beaten when price and quality are combined. You brand us the Hose and Tool Boss because we deliver the most effective industrial solutions. Come in and experience the joy of shopping with Hose Assembly and Supply Limited. Call us 876-923-3936 or visit 173 Hagley Park Road, 2 Charlesworth Crescent or Montego Bay Trade Center. Hose Assembly and Supply Limited. More than just hoses. Now open every Sunday.
The Conference of Choice is back. Join us April 29 to 30 at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel Kingston and online for the world's only Middle Managers Leadership Conference. Hear from 30 business leaders across 4 continents. Expand your network, gain strategies, and elevate your leadership. Learn, connect, and grow with experts. Limited on-site spaces available. Register now at makeyourmarkgroup.com or call 876-978-60022. MMC 2025, a legacy of transformation and execution.
Plug into the sun with Peak Energy Solutions. We are your affordable provider for everything solar. Grid tie or off-grid solar P systems, solar air conditioners, panels, lithium batteries, solar supplies, and installation. Visit us at Shop 1, 3 Mosquito Valley Road, Red Hills, St. Andrew. Call 876-279-8820 or 944-0668. Or email us at peakenergysolutionsja@gmail.com. Peak Energy for everything solar.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. I know you expect some further discussions regarding this Integrity Commission matter, but I'm sorry to say that's going to have to wait till later in the program. We actually have another matter that needs some interrogation, and Prime Minister Andrew Holness has accepted that the goal of transforming Jamaica into a republic at this time has been dashed. The Prime Minister places the blame of that failure squarely at the feet of Opposition Leader Mark Golding.
You can't take what the PNP say because they only act in their convenience. So the dream of many Jamaicans of our country becoming a republic has been dashed at the altar of PNP selfishness. Primarily because they don't want the Jamaica Labour Party to be credited with making Jamaica the republic. They don't want that because they know that we would go down in the annals of history as a party that repatriated our sovereignty. They don't want that.
The Prime Minister delivered the rebuke while addressing a large crowd during the JLP's East Central St. Catherine constituency conference on Sunday. The PNP has boycotted all but the initial sitting of a joint select committee reviewing the Constitution Amendment Republic Act, which seeks to abolish the British monarch as Jamaica's head of state.
Opposition leader Mark Golding cited the Prime Minister's unwillingness to answer questions regarding Jamaica's final appellate court as the reason for the boycott. Without the support of the opposition, any attempt to move forward is likely to end in failure. Dr. Holness accused Golding of going back on his word. Well, joining us to discuss further are members of the Constitutional Reform Committee, that's Dr. Nadine Spence and King's Counsel Hugh Small. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Dr. Spence. Good afternoon, Mr. Small. Hi, yes.
Good afternoon.
Yes, indeed.
So, let's start with you, Dr. Spence. This must be a bit of bitter news to hear. The Prime Minister himself now acknowledging that all that effort that you put in over the last few months and what has been put in terms of the work at the Joint Select Committee are essentially now all in vain.
Well, it's been more than a few months, but it's not a reality that we didn't know before in respect of what is required to move Jamaica to a republic. We always knew that there had to be agreement between those political parties, and we always knew that this was not the first time that this was being done. And, we were asked to do a particular thing, which was to make some recommendations towards Jamaica becoming a republic and some other changes to the Constitution, at least in the first phase. And we did that. What happens after that is totally up to the political directorate and how they handle the matter. But I think what the Prime Minister was essentially saying is what the Constitution lays out, that the matter is one which requires a consensus between both political parties, between government and opposition. And if there is no such consensus, then it's unlikely to move forward with any kind of success.
But in the current political climate, Dr. Spence and Mr. Small, we are definitely in election mode. What kind of hope can we hold out for moving forward with this constitutional reform activity in the near or far future?
Which one of us?
Well, we can bring in Mr. Small. Yes.
Okay.
Small. Yes.
I think that there is a fundamental flaw in the speech of the Prime Minister that you played. And it says that one party did not want the other party to be credited with transforming the country into becoming a republic. If we look at the Constitution, we will realize that the question of this kind of transformation, this kind of change that requires endorsement from the people, cannot be treated as being a partisan matter. It has to be treated as a national matter. And the whole program of constitutional reform, of educating the public and preparing the public to participate in what is in fact a legislative action by voting for the law to be changed, the Constitution to be changed, cannot be approached on the basis that this is a matter in which one party is going to get the credit and the other party doesn't want that party to get the credit. It must be approached on the basis that this is a national project on which the parties are going to come together and agree to do that in the interest of the nation.
Well, Mr. Small, in the situation that we now find ourselves, there had been talk about, us going for a referendum in this instance, as well as ramping up the public education conversation around this constitutional reform process. And so going forward, maybe in the not so distant future, what do you recommend that, whoever forms government and whoever forms opposition should agree on cogently before stepping ahead?
I think that as soon as the election is completed,
yes,
whichever party forms the government of the country, that is to say the executive arm of the country, should sit down with the other party and agree on what is a national program on which they will both go forward and start the process immediately after the next general election. That's the first part.
Yes.
The second point is that because people do not know what is in the existing Constitution, we have to start by informing the people what is in the existing Constitution and why it has to be changed. And I don't think that there should be any approach that involves one party getting credit and another party not getting credit.
But Mr. Small, I have to ask though, what you outlined as the process that should hold after the next general elections, isn't that what has held since the institution of the Constitutional Reform Committee, I believe it was 2 years ago?
Not at all.
That's not what has been happening.
No, that's not in my opinion. Others may have different points of view. What was started in 2023 was, first of all, a breaking up of the process of constitutional change into phase 1 and phase 2.
Yes.
In phase 1, they only looked at matters, or it was set up in such a way that the only thing that we looked at is matters that require a referendum. And on that basis, the final court, the judicial arm of government, was taken out of the consideration for the immediate reform program. And that was the problem that we were faced with from the beginning. And even although as a committee worked towards getting other aspects of the matter looked at, it became clear that the position of the government is that it does not want to change the Privy Council from being the final court of appeal. They haven't said it in so many words, but all their actions indicate that they want to remain in the Privy Council, and they want to make sure that at this time, constitutional changes do not include an acceptance of the Caribbean Court of Justice as a final court of appeal.
Is that your assessment, Dr. Spence?
No, I think one of the things Mr. Small said just now that we knew when the process started, I think, was that the government, through the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, and would undertake a phased process that was a matter of procedure in respect of how the changes would be put to the public and how they would be contemplated. A process was designed that said essentially there are some matters that require a particular kind of change, and there are some other matters that on the face of it require some other kinds of change. So let us put the ones that require, for example, a referendum together, and let us proceed with those at first. I think, well, at least that's what I got from it. I think the matter of the Caribbean Court of Justice, in the agreement that had been put forward to us as to how we would proceed, the matter of the Caribbean Court of Justice was cited in phase 2, and the matter of other changes to the Constitution, including changes to the public service and so on, were cited in phase 3. So it was designed as a phased process, and that we would look at constitutional matters that require a particular kind of change process together. Now, subsequent to that, in respect of deliberating on the particular changes, different matters came to the fore, because as you deliberate on the change to one particular item in the Constitution, you might find that there are other changes that will flow from it that will require a particular kind of change process. So when I entered the process, I thought the agreement was that we were going to move on a phased process because of the kind of changes that are required, the kind of procedures that are required to change our Constitution. And bearing in mind that the change to Jamaica's Constitution, that part of it that requires a referendum, is particular to us. No other country in the English-speaking Caribbean has executed this kind of change before. So we were working out a process that we were going to be working on for the first time. It hadn't been done before.
So, Dr. Spence, because the conversation speaks a lot when we are, hearing it in the public domain, to the fact that Trinidad before, but Barbados in the more recent times have moved ahead and left Jamaica behind. But you're suggesting then that the process would be different for Jamaica because of our constitution.
Because of our constitution. So we have had other constitutional reform committees and commissions before that have started to look at the matter of transitioning Jamaica to a republic.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, this process has been the most successful so far in respect of where it has reached in Parliament. Part of that, and I keep talking about when the people from IDEA International came here the other day, one of the things they said was perhaps this phased process is a best practice that the rest of the world should look at. And one of the things they also said, and Siobhan, I think I've spoken to you about this before, is that 90-odd% of constitutional reform efforts globally fail.
Mm-hmm.
And they fail for all kinds of reasons. So I don't think ours is failing because there's a particular mechanism built into it that caused the failure. I think it's just a tricky matter, the matter of constitutional reform, which requires a certain kind of political agreement, and our constitution makes that difficult. The process makes it difficult. And so what I agree with Mr. Small about is that the timing of it, so close to an election, might be problematic. And so in the next consideration, retiming it might be of critical importance.
I think Mr. Small is trying to come in.
I'm just saying that we might be out of time, but it would be unfair for me not to take you, Mr. Small.
Yes.
Go ahead.
There's an internal inconsistency in changing the executive branch of government.
Yes.
That is to say, removing the king from being able to make appointments in the executive branch and removing the king from our legislature, but keeping the King's Court as a court for the judiciary, for the judicial process, especially.
But it was designed
it is the judicial process. May I complete?
Go ahead, Mr. Small. Please allow
it
Dr.
is the
Spence.
judicial process that decides whether or not the legislature or the executive has breached the Constitution, and to leave that process in the court of King Charles III and the coming Prince King William the IV or the V or the VI or whatever he is or may become is inconsistent with us saying that we are leaving the monarchy out of our Constitution.
What troubles me, Mr. Small, and I put it to you as well, Dr. Spence, is that why are we hearing this now at this particular juncture when the CRC had met and for the better part, as we understood it, had some level of consensus as to the way forward in how this matter would be attended to, up to the point of creating a report and submitting recommendations to Parliament? Why are we just now hearing that there seems to be quite a bit of internal discord and inconsistency in terms of the different positions and beliefs as to what the process should have been?
That is more a political argument than a constitutional or legal one, and that other countries in the Caribbean have proceeded exactly how we are proceeding now. No, they've gone to republic, and then later on they're moving to deal with the matter of their final court. So it's not inconsistent with the methodologies that have been employed across the Caribbean. And so to say that it is inconsistent for those two things to happen is in fact not true. People have a methodology that has worked for them, and Jamaica has put forward a methodology that, you're right, it had agreement at first, but then after a while there was disagreement as to how that should. It doesn't mean that the process is safe.
And that is not my recollection of what happened.
It means that we see it differently, and because we see it differently, it doesn't mean that we end the process. It means that we talk about it and get to a point that is the best possible point moving forward for Jamaicans and not just the political elite,
But if you listen to what the Prime Minister said, he wants to be able to say that his party deserves the credit for moving Jamaica to be a republic. It should not be approached on the basis that either one party or the other party is going to get the credit. The two parties have to get together and approach this thing as a national objective.
We look forward to that. We look forward to that. We are really out of time, Dr. Spence and Mr. Small. We are really out of time. But we really, a lot of people, Jamaicans, were looking forward to the completion of this decolonial project, the project of decolonization. So we look forward to having it, as Mr. Small is saying and Dr. Spence is supporting, being treated as a national movement forward and not as a kind of partisan approach on either side. So the people of Jamaica do deserve that.
This will certainly need further interrogation. Member of the Constitutional Reform Committee, Dr. Nadine Spence, and well, I hear you're not very fond of me saying King's Counsel, Mr. Hugh Small. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
The headlines are now, not next, now.
Cover Story was brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is
4 minutes after 6. Good evening with the headlines at 6. I'm Norgay Banton. Chairman of the Integrity Commission, retired Justice Carol Lawrence Beswick, says she needs more information to address concerns raised by the leaders of government business in the lower and upper houses of Parliament. Leader of Government Business in Parliament, Edmund Bartlett, and Leader of Government Business in the Senate, Kamina Johnson-Smith, wrote a joint letter to Mrs. Lawrence Beswick last week, Friday. The two senior parliamentarians voiced their displeasure with a selection of Ranif Lawrence as Acting Director of Corruption Prosecution and his potential permanent appointment to the post. They say, given his 20-year friendship with the PNP General Secretary, any decision taken by Ranif Lawrence concerning members of the political fraternity will certainly be open to question. However, Justice Lawrence Beswick says any such interrogation would have to be conducted as fairly, impartially, and transparently as is possible. She says justice would no doubt have to be done not only in the eyes of the parliamentarians, but also in the eyes of the persons against whom a complaint or allegation is being made. The retired justice says a primary component of a carefully conducted interrogation is relevant, cogent evidence. She says, in view of the fact that they agree that they do not question any individual's constitutional right of association, any question about Lawrence's decision-making and or sustainability for filing the post must therefore be considered with that right in mind. She says any decision taken by the Commission should be open to be questioned by the public, including political parties, as to the manner in and the basis on which the decision was taken. She goes on to say the Commission is mindful of the fact that its decisions are open to scrutiny and thus operates under the policy that any conflicts of interest are declared and, where they exist, the employee recuses him or herself and thereafter has nothing to do with that particular matter. Meanwhile, Justice Lawrence Beswick also cited insufficient information in response to the letter requesting her to interrogate the matter in which Director of Corruption Prosecution Keisha Prince Kamika left the post at the Integrity Commission. The leaders of government business in the upper and lower houses noted media reports which suggest she came under pressure due to her decisions surrounding a probe into Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness's statutory declarations. The Integrity Commission chairman says there is no reference to a particular decision that has caused their concern. Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang says work is being done in Portland to address the uptick in murders in the once peaceful parish. Dr. Chang gave the assurance at a meeting at the Portland Municipal Corporation on Friday.
We know there have been increased homicide, and increased homicide relates to increased criminal activity. Most of the homicides relating to Portland do not take place in Portland. More murders have been committed as a result of activities in Portland, outside of Portland and in Portland. We, of course, have taken some steps. Not all of it is visible. I'm sure some of you have seen the increased presence of the uniformed police, that is operational officers in Portland. When you see operation, it's the visible part of much more activity. The special operations team that's sent anywhere just by virtue of a report of increased violence. They go by virtue of intelligence, and the intelligence community of the security force have increased their footprints in Portland.
Up to April 6, Portland recorded 7 homicides. That's 5 more than the corresponding period last year. A total of 13 murders were recorded in the parish in 2024, 14 in both 2022 and 2023, and 17 in 2021. Residents have expressed concern that the parish is now under siege by criminals outside the area. Dr. Chang says the government may look at boosting the number of Jamaica Eye cameras in Portland.
We have just approved at the cabinet level the further acquisition of the additional 2,500 cameras. We are here, so we maybe can bring, I'm not sure what the schedule is, I don't get that granular, but we maybe can give you some assurance to move Port Antonio further up the scale in terms of having the cameras in place that will provide a certain level of monitoring. We can bring that up on the radar, and in fact we have to do it on the whole line. We can, if it's there, one of the things that reduces criminality and even the contract killers is a certitude that they'll be identified, found, and taken out. So cameras provide a deterrence, major deterrence. So that we could maybe bring up in the agenda for Portland.
Dr. Horace Chang, Minister of National Security. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Nora Gay Banton. Sports is next.
Maxfield Bakery, breads and buns and Maxfield Bakery for breads and buns and bullets too. It's Maxfield Bakery for the best Easter bun, you know that's
Maxfield Easter bun, the juicy fruity Easter bun. Order online and send abroad at maxfieldbakery.com or call Maxfield Bakery at 926-2160 or 929-3897 and get yours before they're done. Scatter says so.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10 or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Calling all golfers! The 3rd annual Stories to Create charity golf tournament is happening on July 19 at the Constant Spring Golf Course, and you don't want to miss it. Come out and compete in 8 exciting challenges, from longest drive to beat the pro. And yes, you'll get your shot at $5 million in the hole-in-one contest. Prizes, surprises, and a powerful cause supporting youth and storytelling programs through EHAS Inc. Register now and swing with purpose. Visit ehasinc.org or email info@ehasinc.org and we'll see you on the green.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. The West Indies Rising Stars Under-15 cricket competition bowls off on Tuesday in Antigua with a full schedule of games. 6 regional teams will battle over 5 rounds of 50-over cricket to determine the regional champions. Jamaica will open their campaign against defending champions Barbados at the Liberta Sports Ground, and it starts at 8:30 a.m. in Jamaica time. In other first-round games, the Leeward Islands will battle against the Windward Islands at Coolidge, while Trinidad and Tobago, which is led by Kyron Pollard's son, Caden, will square off with Guyana at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium. The West Indies' chances of qualifying for the ICC 50-over Cricket Women's World Cup later this year is hanging by a thread after they went down by 65 runs to Pakistan at the qualifiers in Lahore on Monday. The defeat was the team's second after they were beaten by Scotland in the first game. The West Indies must now win their 2 remaining games against unbeaten Bangladesh on Thursday and winless Thailand on Saturday, and then hope that other results go their way if they are to qualify. Coach Shane Deese believes the team did not play up to its full potential against Pakistan.
Obviously, disappointing result, and we were second best tonight. We started really well with the ball and restricted them to 190 on pretty good pitch, which obviously was deteriorating a little bit. So we did the first part right. It's probably the best we bowled and fielded the whole time. And all we needed was a really good start, and we would have chased those runs down. But we lost the wicket first ball, and then 2 unusual run-outs would put us really behind the 8 ball. And then Pakistan bowled really well on what was a turning pitch towards the end, and we just never got partnerships together to chase that runs down.
The Windies sits 4th on the 16 table with 2 points from 3 starts, and Deese is only too aware of the task of facing the team in its quest to qualify.
But we're just got to focus on finishing well, playing some really good cricket and giving our fans something to cheer about, because obviously we've let them down, let ourselves down, let all our fans back in the Caribbean down, which is real disappointing. But that's cricket. We've got to fight back. That's the only way to do it, is train hard, get together, stick together as a team. Came out fighting the last 2 games, and hopefully a few things go away and a miracle can happen. But so all we've got to do is play well last few games and finish this tournament well, and then regroup and see where we go from there.
Shane Deese, West Indies women's cricket team coach. Cricket's world governing body, the ICC, is considering a change to the existing 2-ball playing conditions in one-day internationals in a bid to restore some balance between bat and ball in the format. A recommendation has been made to use only 1 ball from over number 35 of an innings. The recommendation was made by the ICC's Men's Cricket Committee, headed by Sourav Ganguly, to board chief executives at an ICC meeting in Harare. Each innings will start with 2 new balls, as is the case now, but in the recommendation, the fielding side will be allowed to select which ball they wish to carry on with after the 34th over. The ball that is not chosen will then be kept as the spare ball in case it's needed. The Cricket Committee considered making the ball change earlier after 25 overs, but that did not find favour within the committee, which felt using a ball for 17 overs before deciding which to use was more appropriate. Boards are expected to give their feedback on the tweak by the end of this month. If there is consensus, it will be formalized in the playing conditions, most likely at the ICC's annual general meeting in July. There was also discussion in the committee about switching the Under-19 Men's World Cup, currently played in the 50-over format, to T20. Members of the committee also discussed a bonus points reward in the World Test Championship, though the prevalent view around that was that it would be too complicated to implement. Mount Pleasant and Chapelton are still goalless at the minute. They are now into the second half of their Ray and Nephew Jamaica Premier League encounter over at the Tony Spalding Sports Complex. Mount Pleasant Academy, they lead the standings. They've got 78 points, 9 more than second place Mobay United, who will play tonight against Racing in the second game of the doubleheader, starting at 7:45. Mobay are 2 points clear of Arnett Gardens in the battle for the second automatic semi-final berth, and they can move into a much stronger position if they bag all 3 points tonight. Yesterday, Portmore United, they beat Arnett Gardens 2-1. Malines defeated Dunbeholden 2-0. Harbourview and Cavalier played out a 2-2 draw. Tivoli beat Vere by 2-1. And Waterhouse, they clipped Humberline by 1-0. Bournemouth returned to winning ways and moved up to 8th in the English Premier League after a 1-0 win over Fulham today. The Cherries led inside the opening minute as Antoine Semenyo scored his first league goal since January, and the lead they held until the end.
Here's Semenyo. Might be an early chance for Bournemouth here. It's an early goal, beautifully tucked away inside the first minute. That's just what they needed after this run of poor home form.
The win moved Bournemouth to 48 points, level with Fulham and Brighton and Hove Albion, but they are above both teams thanks to a superior goal difference. Toriano, the medic Nicholas, will take on Daniel Don Hilton in the feature bout of a 3-fight card dubbed Boxing in the Arena at the Big Bike Complex in Woodall, Clarendon on April 20. Both men will be competing in the lightweight division. Nicholas says he'll be coming with lightning speed.
I expect a decisive fight. It's going to be tricky.
It's going to be speedy. I'm going to be excited. But I'm not going to predict which one's going to last because I don't know the condition that Mr. Ilson is going to come in and was he prepared? So, but one thing, I'm just coming in there to just do what I need to do, try and get this win.
And he says he knows just how to nullify his opponent.
I know enough, I know that he's crafty and he got speed. He must rely on his speed and his counterpunches. And once I know that's what he relies on, then all I got to do, I'll take it away from him and the fight will be easy.
That's Toriano the Medic Nicholas. Meanwhile, Kimberly LG Samuels will clash with Demar Force Haslem in the junior welterweight category, and Akeem the Dream Francis will take on Ronaldo Sleepy Beckford in the middleweight division. And finally in sports at this time, President of the Jamaica Lacrosse Association, Calbert Hutchinson, was unanimously elected Vice President of the Pan American Lacrosse Association by its 12 full member associations. The current PALA board will serve for the next 4 years. Hutchinson says their first order of business will be to get the 11 associate members of the region to become full members.
I will be working closely with the president to get our additional members up to par for full membership with the world body. So I'll be working with the membership as it relates to putting in governance structures, ensuring that the development taking place at the grassroots level, making sure that they meet all the requirements as outlined by the world bodies for them to become full members.
And he says they'll be working to have more international competitions hosted in the region.
The lacrosse infrastructure is not as developed outside of Canada and the USA. So one of our mandates is to encourage more events or qualifying events or Pala Sixes Cup and maybe in the near future or World Championships, encourage more of those events outside of North America. So recently we announced the Pala Sixes Cup to be held in Puerto Rico. So we'll be encouraging a lot more of those events outside of North America. And hopefully Jamaica will be able to host a few more regional and international events.
That's Calbert Hutchinson, newly minted Vice President of the Pan American Lacrosse Association, PALA. That's sports.
For all your scales and food processing equipment, call Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited at 876-968-9612-5. The time by Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited is
6:20.
More savings, more choices. Get active with Active Home Center. The one-stop shop for everything for your home. We have more savings, more choices, unbelievable prices. Wide selection with the latest style. The kitchen, bathroom, right down to the tile. Buy the hottest items on spot, don't miss out. Best options under one roof, no doubt. More savings, more choices.
Visit us in store or online at www.activehomecenter.com.
We have more savings, more choices.
Jamaica! Get your tickets now for Arise 2025, the music celebration, and join the gathering with the Hoppers, Gospel Proclaimers, Rhoda Isabella, Carrie Sales, and others at the National Arena, Easter Sunday, April 20 at 5 p.m. Group of 15, 6,000 per person. General, 6,500 and VIP, 9,500. Available at Source of Light Music Mart, SpurOpen.com/Arise 2025. Bring the family as we celebrate with the Hoppers. One awesome evening.
The future is here. Meet your new best friend, the Samsung Galaxy S25. Unlock your true potential with this powerful but sleek AI companion. The S25 has exciting features such as the enhanced AI and camera. Let's transform the future together. Ask about our trade-in, smart payment, and insurance protection plans. Get yours today at select digital stores, Crossroads, Tropical Plaza, Spanish Town, downtown, and also available at the SMS store, 12 Ruth Venner Road, Kingston 10. SMS Group is your gateway to technology.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Good evening, and welcome to Public Opinion. I'm Roby Ann Williams. It's a Monday evening, the start of a new week. Yeah, I hope you all had a wonderful weekend and ready for this short week. Yeah, because we're going on holidays soon. We like holidays, don't we? All right, a special good evening to our friends over on our YouTube platform. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we want to hear from you, especially on this matter. So we ask you to weigh in live in the comments section on today's Public Opinion. So let's get to it. Last Friday, in a letter, leaders of government business in the upper and lower houses, Edmund Bartlett, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, and wrote to the chairman of the Integrity Commission, retired Justice Carol Lawrence Beswick. Yes, they registered their complaints, their concerns as it relates to the appointment of Mr. Ranif Lawrence as Acting Director of Corruption Prosecution. Mr. Lawrence has been styled by General Secretary of the People's National Party, Dr. Dayton Campbell, as his friend for over 20 years. In a social media post on January 26 this year, Dr. Campbell's post contained a photograph of him in the company of Ranif Lawrence at what appeared to be his wedding, Lawrence's wedding. The two senior legislators say it's a matter of public record that in late 2024, Dr. Campbell used a political platform to make particular comments about a case which it subsequently came to the public was being considered for investigation by the Integrity Commission. Yeah. Bartlett and Johnson-Smith tell Justice Lawrence Beswick that they do not, for a moment, question the professional qualifications of Mr. Lawrence, but they say given his 20-year friendship with the PNP General Secretary, any decision taken by Ranif Lawrence concerning members of the political fraternity will certainly be opened to question. Mrs. Lawrence Beswick has responded subsequently today. She says that she needs more information to address these concerns. Yeah, these concerns that were raised by two senior parliamentarians. She needs more information as it relates to the concerns. So in Public Opinion this evening, we're asking, you've been following the stories brought to you by Nationwide 90 FM. Yes. Is the government overreacting to the appointment of Ranif Lawrence to the Integrity Commission? That's the Public Opinion question. Is the government overreacting to the appointment of Ranif Lawrence to the Integrity Commission? I'll start with the comments on our X platform. All right. Wow. Norman is saying no. The fact that the PNP spoke about rulings of the IC to send to Parliament prior, it's happening. It is a cause for concern. Let me see. Trepp is saying absolutely not. Javon Ramden saying no, the government is right. An office that is so critical and sensitive needs someone neutral. Keeping him there will only cause more trouble and undermine the trustworthiness of the IC given the current situation. Alexandra Pike saying no. There can be no conflicts of interest in that position. Perception can become reality. All right, let me see if I can get in a few more on this question. On Facebook, Vivine Hanchard is saying, no, why aren't these appointees put before the bipartisan committee and questioned before appointment? Dina George is saying no. With the IC currently being viewed as politically biased, the government must ensure that it weeds out even the appearance of a conflict. This appointment of an individual with a 20-year personal relationship with a member of the political directorate would raise questions about the fairness of many investigations. Shins for Life is saying no. The government is doing the right thing. It smells and looks like a handpick, which equals corruption. George Elliott saying absolutely not. The government is not overreacting. The IC has already demonstrated that it is, wow, in George Elliott's word, politically biased. All right. Smiley Lindburn is saying no. Probably he was, nope, not going to say that, Smiley. Alex Smith says if you're going to put a friend, wow. Okay. George Alwood saying no, once bitten, twice shy. Trevor Spooner is saying absolutely not. The government is not overreacting. The IC is already dogged in credibility issues. Why should the lack of confidence be compounded by this appointment? Yeah. a lot of comments on our Facebook platform. Going over to our Instagram, where Shan is saying, I'm sure if it was one of the PM friends, we would not hear the last of it. JFJ, JTA, NIA, and all of them would have come out running. So says Senpai. Senpai is saying, if it was a member of the JLP who had posted this man as their best friend and then he was appointed, Jamaica would be put on a pause. This has nothing to do with politics and taking any sides. If the person being appointed has any conscience at all, he would refuse the position after hearing all of this. All right, so I must make it clear that the parliamentarians say that they're not questioning the qualifications, the professional qualifications of Mr. Lawrence. They're not. That's not their concern. Their concern is the 20-year friendship and that any decision taken by him concerning members of the political fraternity will be open for question. All right, let me see what our YouTubers are saying to the question, is the government overreacting to the appointment of Ranif Lawrence to the Integrity Commission? Let's get to it. Simon Purchase is saying, yes, the JLP government playing politics. Yeah. Ken Youth Mullings is saying that the IC lost credibility. Neil, is this Neely? Neely is saying Lawrence should go. Start Girl is saying, no, I don't trust the IC one bit. For Juliet Sanchez, I see a look. Okay. All right. Ina Brown is saying, absolutely not. The IC is already underwater. Members must not only be unbiased, but appear to be so. Philip Jackson says, nope, no overreacting at all. Dismantle IC, says Marlene P. It has become political. And Dean Breezer is saying, move him now. Inez is saying, not at all. This is a serious matter. Aishan Khan is saying Lawrence should recuse himself. Wow. Marjorie says, I don't trust the IC. Bertie, no, the IC is damaged goods. Wow. All right, these comments. Ken Roy saying it's a bias move and it must be dismissed. James says no. McGranny said, show me a company. And we know how that goes. James didn't finish it, but I think we know how that goes. Kevin is saying, leave the man alone. The new chairman is a no-nonsense person and can be relied on where integrity is concerned. Only JLP will have a problem with the man appointment. Yeah. George Clive is saying, I'm calling on a young professional. If you get, okay, all right. That's unrelated. Greetings to you, George. Morris Thomas rather says, government is not overreacting, just making sure no fronting taking place. Hectic Straight also saying that Hectic Straight is saying that the government is overreacting because such man allegations. But yes, safe to say that Hectic Straight is saying yes, the government is overreacting. Mona Smith answering him there. Bonnie Williams says the IC must be defunded. All right, a lot of comments coming in on this one. Is the government overreacting concerning the appointment of Ranif Lawrence to the Integrity Commission? Robert Gregory Lewis is saying no, someone else who is neutral should be appointed in the post. Yeah. Let me see if I have some more. Ahmad is saying, I concur with the government's position on this matter. Shan, let me see, is saying that if it was the JLP had any friend in there, then you would not hear the end of it. All right. Gloria says, not at all. Campbell, friend for 20 years, no way. All right. Javis says, yes, the government is overreacting. Yeah. And I'm getting in a few more. Let us see the outcome of this. The chairman of the Integrity Commission did respond to say that she needs more information as it relates to these concerns. She needs evidence, some sort of evidence of some sort of something, right? All right, so that's all the time I'm getting the wrap-up signal for public opinion. Let us see how this one goes. My people, have a good one. Until then, The business report is up next.
Public Opinion was brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is
33 minutes after 6. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Nationwide's Business Report. I'm Robianne Williams. VM Investments Limited has listed its recent bond offering on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, the JSE. The listing ceremony took place last week at the offices of the Jamaica Stock Exchange in Kingston. The bond, originally set to raise $5.34 billion, saw exceptional demand from the investing public, resulting in an oversubscription of approximately $1.2 billion. U.S. stock markets rose on Monday after the White House said tariffs on imports of Chinese-made smartphones and some other electronic devices would not apply. The rollback, issued early on Saturday, may end up being short-lived after President Donald Trump said these goods were simply being moved into a different tariff group or bucket. In Europe, the UK's FTSE 100 closed up 2.1%, while the main stock indexes in France and Germany both climbed. Now, despite the partial rebound, global stock markets are still lower than before Trump's Liberation Day tariffs announcement on April 2. The main U.S. and European stock markets suffered historic falls, followed by record rises after Trump suspended many tariffs for 90 days. And finally, in the currency markets at the close of trading today, it cost 158 Jamaican dollars and 26 cents to buy $1 US, 208 Jamaican dollars and 28 cents to buy $1 British pound, and 114 Jamaican dollars and 48 cents to buy the Canadian dollar. That's the business report. I'm Robianne Williams. Good evening.
JUTC finally arrived in St. Mary. Well done, JUTC.
The seats are very comfortable and it has Wi-Fi and AC.
Driver, the ride was nice, the AC was nice. I love the ride, I will always look out for you.
Thank you for traveling with me, and I will definitely look out for you the next time. Welcome to JTC on the 52B from Alpha Tree to Tom's River.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Jamaica! Get your tickets now for Arise 2025, the music celebration, and join the gathering with the Hoppers, Gospel Proclaimers, Rhoda Isabella, Carey Sales, and others at the National Arena, Easter Sunday, April 20 at 5 p.m. Group of 15, 6,000 per person. General, 6,500 and VIP, 9,500. Available at Source of Light Music Mart, SpurOpen.com/Arise 2025. Bring the family as we celebrate with the Hoppers. One awesome evening.
Miss your share from the NWC's bucket full of goodies? Don't worry. The debt amnesty package has been extended for another 2 months. From now until May 31, you could benefit from debt write-offs. To find out if you qualify for benefits under the amnesty package, don't delay. Let's hear from you today. Dial 888-225-5692 or 888 code NWC. The NWC Debt Amnesty, a part of our bucket full of goodies.
Tune in to Boya Things After Dark from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. for a sizzling outside broadcast live from Bird Shack Fried Chicken on 118 Red Hills Road on April 16, 2025. Follow me, Kareem Boya Things Weathers, to Bird Shack for their famous crispy fried chicken. We are bringing the vibes and our belly to Bird Shack to satisfy our hunger. Expect live music, giveaways, and more. Visit Bird Shack Fried Chicken on April 16 and join me on Boya Things After Dark. Tell us your favorite meal from Bird Shack Fried Chicken and why. So tune in on Boya Things After Dark, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. on April 16. Check us out at Bird Shack Fried Chicken on 118 Red Hills Road. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by Bird Shack Fried Chicken Jamaica.
Tune in to Cliff Cliffviews Online on April 16 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. as we broadcast the groundbreaking ceremony for the Raintree Commercial Development. Raintree Commercial Complex aligns with UDC's goal of developing urban spaces. On 108 acres at Block 1, it will offer commercial and light industrial opportunities, creating 2,000 short-term and 5,000 long-term jobs, benefiting the Caymanas community. So tune in to Cliffviews Online on April 16 from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for this groundbreaking activity. It's the groundbreaking ceremony for the Raintree Commercial Development. Also catch the live stream on Nationwide's YouTube channel at Nationwide Live 2. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. This broadcast is brought to you by the Urban Development Corporation.
Big news! The Big Bite Food Safety Show now airs on Nationwide 90 FM with your host, Alison Richards, the Food Safety Girl. Join Alison every Tuesday from 1 to 2 p.m. as she serves up expert advice, tips, and insights on everything food safety. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and remember, food safety is everybody's business. Don't miss a bite of the action. Tuesdays at 1 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media. Join us on the next episode for Street Food Chronicles. Are you being jerked over?
Tune in to Nationwide at 5 on April 16 for Money Talks with Sagicor Investments. Join us for an exclusive, in-depth review of the 2025 budget and its implications on your investments. Whether you're into stocks, real estate, or business, this is the insight you need to make informed decisions in this new economic landscape. Hear from our panel featuring experts from Sagicor Investments as well as Sidney Thwaites, President of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, and Kimberly Batson, partner at PwC Jamaica, as they discuss key budget highlights, impact on investment strategies, economic shifts and opportunities, and expert analysis and tips for investors. Don't miss Money Talks on Nationwide at 5, April 16, 6 to 8 p.m. Watch live on Nationwide 90 FM's YouTube channel at Nationwide 90 FM Live 2 or on Sagicor Jamaica's Instagram. Money Talks, presented by Sagicor Investments. All this and more only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, "By God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path." Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's Word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis. Weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. It's 6:41 and it's time for the nation's business. I'm Siobhan Campbell.
And I'm Donna Hope.
Well, we're now turning back to the matter of the Integrity Commission. Chairman of the Integrity Commission, retired Justice Carol Lawrence Beswick, says she needs more information to address concerns raised by the leaders of the government business in the lower and upper houses of Parliament. Leader of government business in the Parliament, Edmund Bartlett, and Leader of government business in the Senate, Kamina Johnson-Smith, wrote a joint letter to Mrs. Lawrence Beswick last week, Friday. The two senior parliamentarians voiced their displeasure with the selection of Ranif Lawrence as Acting Director of Corruption Prosecution and his potential permanent appointment to the post. Mrs. Lawrence Beswick wrote a response to the senior parliamentarians on Monday. More in this report. In a letter last Friday, leaders of government business in the upper and lower houses, Edmund Bartlett and Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, wrote to retired Justice Carol Lawrence Beswick registering particular and serious concerns held by their government colleagues. These include the appointment of Mr. Ranif Lawrence as Acting Director of Corruption Prosecution. Mr. Lawrence has been styled by General Secretary of the People's National Party, Dr. Dayton Campbell, as his friend of over 20 years in a social media post on January 26 of this year. Dr. Campbell's post contained a photograph of him in the company of Reneve Lawrence at what appeared to be Lawrence's wedding. The two senior legislators says it's a matter of public record that in late 2024, Dr. Campbell used a political platform to make particular comments about a case which it subsequently came to public attention was being considered for investigation by the Integrity Commission. Bartlett and Johnson Smith tell Justice Lawrence Beswick that they do not for a moment question the professional qualifications of Reneve Lawrence. But they say, given his 20-year friendship with the PNP General Secretary, any decision taken by Reneve Lawrence concerning members of the political fraternity will certainly be open to question. However, Justice Lawrence Beswick says any such interrogation would have to be conducted as fairly, impartially, and transparently as possible. She says justice would no doubt have to be done not only in the eyes of the parliamentarians, but also in the eyes of the persons against whom a complaint or allegation is being made. The retired justice says a primary component of a carefully conducted interrogation is relevant cogent evidence. She says in the view of the fact that they agree that they do not question any individual's constitutional right of association, any question about Lawrence's decision-making and or suitability for filling the post must therefore be considered with that right in mind. She says any decision taken by the Commission should be open to be questioned by the public, including political parties, as to the manner in and the basis on which the decision was taken. She goes on to say the Commission is mindful of the fact that its decisions are open to scrutiny and thus operates under the policy that any conflicts of interest are declared, and where they exist, the employee recuses him or herself and thereafter has nothing to do with that particular matter. Further, in responding to the concerns regarding the utterances of Dr. Dayton Campbell, the Commission chairman says their description lacks sufficient details to allow her to determine of what they speak. Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News. Well, joining us to discuss this further will be member of the JLP's Communication Task Force, Senator Marlon Morgan, and political commentator and editor-in-chief of the Western Mirror, Lloyd B. Smith, after this break.
This time signal is sponsored by Janet Global Accreditation, an agency of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. The time is now
6:45 p.m.
And we're back. As I said, we're discussing the matters surrounding the Integrity Commission again. We have with us member of the GLP's Communication Task Force, Senator Marlon Morgan, and political commentator and editor-in-chief at the Western Mirror, Lloyd B. Smith. Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening to you both. Let's start with you, Marlon Morgan. Your colleagues in the Senate and the lower house raised some concerns. The Integrity Commission chairman is suggesting that based on what was provided to her, she does not feel there's enough information for her to move forward with either an inquiry.
Well, at the very outset, Siobhan, I'd want to indicate that the correspondence written by jointly the leader of government business in the Senate and, of course, the lower house does not essentially seek to castigate or impugn the Integrity Commission. We know that conversations like these may conjure up in the mind of some that the JLP is fighting against the Integrity Commission. That is not the case. We respect the Integrity Commission as a commission of the Parliament, and we appreciate the role that it has to play in our body politic. Suffice it to say, however, having regard to the correspondence from the Integrity Commission over the signature of the newly minted chairman, retired Justice Carol Lawrence Beswick, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and, of course, the Minister of Tourism will be considering the correspondence and make a determination as to their response, because we know that it is in the public's interest in this matter for there to be appropriate ventilation, because for the avoidance of any doubt, the Integrity Commission is too crucial a commission in terms of serving as guardians of accountability and, faithful stewardship in high office. We know that Jamaica has been bedeviled by allegations of and perceptions vis-a-vis corruption, and as such, we know the role the Integrity Commission plays, the fact that the declarations have to be certified and that kind of thing. And so that is welcomed. However, we believe that it has to be, a premium has to be placed on ensuring that the persons who staff the commission are persons who are essentially divest of any perception of a conflict of interest. And what do I mean by that? We note in this case that based on Dr. Dayton Campbell's own assertions, the gentleman who has recently been elevated to act as Director of Corruption Prosecution at the Integrity Commission, Mr. Ronif Lawrence, against whom we cast no aspersions. We in the JLP do not impugn the gentleman's professional qualifications. What we're simply saying here is having regard to the fact that the Director of Corruption Prosecution will be called on from time to time to make critical decisions and determinations. We would not want any specter or any notion of bias or sympathies toward Dr. Campbell based on the relationship that the two gentlemen have, based on Dr. Campbell's own assertion. They are brothers essentially over 20 years of friendship as having been persons associated with Chancellor Hall and the Mona campus. So just to be very clear, we do not impugn the capacity of Ronif Lawrence, but we would not want a situation where members of the public looking on would have any notion of bias having regard to any decision or non-decision taken by Ronif Lawrence in his capacity as Director of Corruption Prosecution, albeit acting at this time.
Thank you, Senator Morgan. And Lloyd B. Smith, from your own perspective, what do you see as the best way forward now that the members, the leaders of both houses of the government have received the response from the chair of the Integrity Commission?
Well, first of all, I think that the chairman's response was most judicious and full of much common sense. And against that backdrop, I would want to think that the JLP should be cautious in what it is doing. And I say this against the backdrop that we are a very small society. Everybody knows just about everybody. And we have to be careful, therefore, that we do not reach a point in our political architecture where it's not going to be easy for us to find maybe a Mother Teresa or a John the Baptist. I mean, all of us, by association, whether socially, professionally, or otherwise, or politically for that matter, exist in a very small space. So I think that has to be borne in mind. I would want to go along with the suggestion of Milady in that more evidence should be put on the table as to why. Because it's interesting that Senator Morgan says that they do not question this gentleman's professionalism. And in my books, when you act professionally in the
professional qualifications, actually.
Oh, you meant qualification, because I was going to say that when you act professionally, then you are...
Yeah, because I don't know that I'm in a position to speak definitively as to his professionalism.
Mm-hmm. So you're just speaking of his perfect... Okay, well, at least you clarify that in my mind. But I still think that there would need to be more cogent evidence to bring this matter to closure, because are you saying in essence that he ought not to be placed in that position in the very final analysis? Is that what is being said? Because that is not clear to me. Or you're just raising this objection purely for political mileage, or,
So just for the avoidance of any doubt, Siobhan, Prof. Hope, and of course my good friend Lloyd B. The JLPs, and of course by way of the correspondence from Kamina Johnson-Smith and Edmund Bartlett, is not raising an issue for any political mileage, because that would do the public conversation a disservice. Indeed, that would do the interest of the public and governance in the country a disservice. And so we would not even suggest or want the suggestion to be inferred, yes, that is what is driving the considerations and the requests here. What we're standing on is a platform of wanting to see the Integrity Commission being above board, being staffed by persons who are not only professional and well suited to serve, but there is no question, as it were, as to their impartiality and, of course, their judgment and the fact that they have no conflict of interest. That's a clear point we're making here. So one of the things we shouldn't avoid or discount in this conversation, lady and gentlemen, is the context within which we're operating. Lloyd B will appreciate very well that for the past 3 or so years, what we have had is essentially a weaponization of the IC. No fault of the IC in terms of, what the PNP has done in relation to the matter of the Prime Minister's statutory declarations not being certified. Certainly when the PNP started to raise this on the political stump, that would not have been a fault of the IC. However, what we have seen is a weaponization of the IC's work, and especially in circumstances where Julian Robinson said what he said in August of 2024, where he essentially, on the occasion of speaking at the PNP Women's Movement Conference on August 17 or 18 of 2024, he basically telegraphed to listeners and the public at large that we're likely to have elections later in 2024 because when Parliament resumes, he said, in September, a report from the Integrity Commission will be tabled. How would Julian Robinson have known that? Now, certainly, we are not suggesting that any particular officer at the IC may have tipped off Julian Robinson, and indeed Dayton Campbell, who appeared on Nationwide sometime in early September and essentially challenged what Cliff and I believe Ricardo Brooks at the time were saying when they were speaking about the accounts of Mr. Holness's parents. Dayton Campbell on that program made mention of the findings of the IC this issue being about much more than Andrew Holness's parents' bank accounts. What would have caused Dayton Campbell to have been in such a position to speak so definitively and conclusively on that matter? These things raises questions in the minds of the public, and it may serve to erode public confidence in this institution in which such high responsibility and expectations are vested, and that's a key point we're making. Too much is at stake with the IC for there to be any whiff or any hint of untoward or improper motive in terms of the carriage of its mandate. And we have seen copious examples that erode public confidence, not least being the comments of the incumbent executive director at the IC, Greg Christie, on the occasion of the shooting of an IC staffer, where the journalist put a question to him and Greg Christie retorted in no uncertain terms, asked the government that. And when the journalist, taken aback, asked him what does he mean by that, Greg Christie responded to the journalist and said, ask them what that means.
Senator Morgan, we have to bring Lloyd B back into the conversation, yes? Because of course, when you speak about the kind of scrutiny that the Integrity Commission has been under over the past year or so, the public has become very embroiled and connected to the conversations around it. And so, Lloyd B, what do you think, or how do you think the move forward to appoint individuals to these positions in the IC has to be treated, especially within the kind of political climate that we are working through right now? We are looking at an election sometime soon.
Well, I think due diligence has to be done.
Yes.
Sufficient interrogations and so on must be done. What is unfortunate at this point is that the matter is now being tested and tried in the court of public opinion. And that is where I have a difficulty because, as I said before, we have a small society, and the very fact that this issue has now been raised, it would have put the gentleman in question into a most, invidious position. And I don't know if that is fair to him. And so I would have thought that there would have to be more subtle and, behind the scenes way in which the dialogue could have taken place. And as the milady has suggested, that in instances where in the future certain cases may come to the fore that, if necessary, he would recuse himself from those matters so as not to leave any cloud of suspicion or uncertainty. Because I do believe, as I said, that it's going to be extremely difficult in the very finance. Because today it is the JLP saying this. Tomorrow it could be the PMP saying the very same thing about another person in another position within the IC. So I think a great deal of care has to be taken here. And what I would love to see is greater dialogue, as well as what Milady suggested, that Marlon here has given us a number of instances which he believes substantiate the JLP's position. I don't know if these were put within the context of his, or rather the letter that was sent by Mr. Bartlett and Minister Smith. But I think in the very finances, much more needs to be done behind the scenes quietly, rather than using this thing, the public sphere, to deal with it, because we know right now in this silly season there's heightened political rivalry, and no matter how you spin this thing, Marlon is going to come across as a potential witch hunt. That's how I see it.
But Mr. Lloyd B., the concern there raised regarding the necessity to deal with these matters quietly, isn't that abundantly the problem as it stands now? Because up to this point, the Integrity Commission has operated somewhat in a very closed-door manner, providing very little in terms of the way of information to the public as to its operations. And that itself has fostered this almost suspicion from certain aspects of the political directorate as well as the general public. Shouldn't there be at least an acknowledgement on the part of the commission that there are concerns on the part of the political directorate and the people, and that they will be looking into them?
Yes, your point may well be taken, but this is why we could extend this to take in the whole matter of the gag clause. And then we would be entering another domain of political intrigue and obfuscation. I will maintain that the Integrity Commission, to me, it has to be seen as removed somewhat from, the general discourse in the political arena, because otherwise it will continue to be a political football, and it will be hit on either side, depending on who is in power and who is not in power, depending on, that's how I see it. And I frankly believe, as I said, that at this stage, the matter could have been dealt with privately behind, and then if at some point there was no resolution satisfactory, then you could go into the public domain. The fact that it is now thrust into the public domain, I don't see it having any resolution that is going to be totally favorable, unless, of course, the goodly gentleman resigns from the post. What else is the JLP asking for? Is that what the JLP really wants? Say so, then you take it from there.
But I ask you, Lloyd B., can he operate in a position, as you said, where he would be required, due to the concerns raised by the government, that his affiliations with Dr. Dayton Campbell may call into question his ability to deal with the political directorate in a fair manner? Would it then be possible for him to do his job? I mean, would he then have to recuse himself from any matter regarding a parliamentarian?
So this is why I'm asking, is it that the JLP is saying he should not be there? If that is the case, then say so. And then he would have his own constitutional right, and the matter may well have to be taken to the courts to have it resolved. I don't know. I mean...
Well, Siobhan, Lloyd B. would appreciate, and it is an observation made by retired Justice Lawrence Beswick, yes, in her correspondence of even date, regarding no entity or authority, separate and apart from the court, consequent on judicial review, should direct the Integrity Commission. And so the Jamaica Labour Party, for which I speak, is not arrogating unto itself a power to direct the IC in relation to the good gentleman, Mr. Ranif Lawrence. So just to be very clear, the correspondence of Friday last seeks essentially to invite the IC to attend upon this issue, to interrogate the circumstances surrounding this gentleman, Ronnie Lawrence, and of course, an apparent relationship insofar as a friendship, a certain association between himself and a gentleman who serves as the CEO of one of the major political parties here in Jamaica, the PNP's Dayton Campbell. So just to be very clear, staffing is an issue that the IC has to pay particular attention to. We would have seen in recent months at one of the oversight committee meetings for the IC, Greg Christie, when a question was put to him about Ryan Evans, a gentleman who is known to have had, yes, and Ryan Evans does not deny it, certain antecedents in terms of having served as an advisor, political advisor as it were, to then Minister Dr. Peter Phillips. It should be that in staffing the Integrity Commission, in bringing members on board, takes, more definitive and careful steps to, consider the antecedents of persons, because you want the entity to be staffed by persons in whom there can be no question as to political sympathies or potential improper motive on the part of the person. Because you wouldn't want a member of the public to feel that, listen, Ryan Evans acted in this way, or Kevin Stevenson, or indeed Ronnie Lawrence acted in a particular way because of something that was operating on their mind other than their good judgment and professionalism. And we have seen in the case of the IC where Mrs. Prince Kamika exercised that judgment in relation to not averring charges. Yes? However, based on what has come to public light, there are functionaries in the IC, yes, who would have had a variance of opinion from her, certainly Kevin Stevens, insofar as making a recommendation to her for charges in relation to wholeness and the issue of his parents' bank accounts. Kevin Stevenson was of one mind, and as we have since come to see, to recognize and appreciate, Mrs. Prince Kamika was of a different mind in terms of the likelihood of, successful prosecution and the premium of going in that direction. So you would not want to have decisions being taken by people to be open to the specter of bias or political sympathies in particular. And Ryan Evans, a gentleman who served as an advisor to Peter Phillips, really and truly in terms of the recruitment process, should have, been flagged and perhaps not considered for appointment, because you want the entity to be sterile and absolutely divest of any question on the part.
Senator Morgan, as I think I hear Lloyd B saying this, and I did repeat this last Friday when the letter was discussed here on Nationwide, that Jamaica is a very small society, and the pool of persons that you're going to choose from for some of these high-profile positions tends to be people who may know each other casually, probably have attended school together, but let me make the point, and may have some kind of association with each other. Being an advisor to someone is at a different level, maybe from having a friendship with someone else or a casual relationship. So I think, how do you suggest then that we go forward to ensure that, the kind of 360-degree evaluation is done so that persons coming into these posts are then free of any major, attachment that might seemingly prejudice their own professionalism?
Which is why, Prof, I pointed to process. In other words, and just for the benefit of the listeners to be very clear, what I am commending to the Integrity Commission, to the extent that it is an office that discharges an important mandate, and it has to be an entity that wins the trust and confidence of the public, is for it to have a fit and proper, a fit-for-purpose recruitment process where appropriate checks are made, appropriate inquiries are made as to person's antecedents, because I am sure it would have popped up or ought to have popped up on Ryan Evans' resume that the gentleman, is essentially someone who had proximity to an active politician and perhaps would not be the best candidate to serve as the Director of Corruption Prevention at the Integrity Commission as he is serving today. And for Greg Christie to have responded to that question put to him at the oversight committee meeting in the way he did, I believe it leaves much to be desired, and it was essentially a slap in the face of members of the public in particular who have legitimate concerns and legitimate questions. We do not want to have an IC where there is this wedge where you have one segment of the population believing that, boy, there are some persons who are staffing the IC who are not essentially fit for purpose, and another segment.
Senator Morgan, you're always going to have that. Let's be realistic here. As I said, you might as well suggest...
That's an excellent point, Lloyd B.
No,
that's an excellent point. We're always going to have that.
Yes.
No, let me allow you, because there's an observation I want to make. You're always going to have persons having, an angst or a grievance one way or another. However, it should not be undergirded by any, substantial evidence or what you would call, anything that has veracity, as it were. And I have cited examples in this case of some many instances and many developments in relation to the IC that strains confidence and serves to erode public trust in the entity. Not least some comments by Christie, not least the fact that it is alleged that Prince Kamika is someone who was, alienated perhaps, or persons took a dim view of her in the IC because she elected to not charge the Prime Minister in relation to the illicit enrichment matter, or indeed in relation to his parents' bank accounts.
And
these are real issues.
And Lloyd B, I would like to bring you in here, because is that an unfair request? As you put it, the IC should be above the political fracas in almost all doubt. It should be reasonably isolated from that level of scrutiny. So shouldn't it then be in a situation where the people who staff the Integrity Commission should be people to, at the very minimum, we cannot find, as the Senate put it, veracity in claims that they have prior links to of political affiliation?
Yes, but it is still a difficult proposition.
Yes, Lloyd, it is a difficult proposition, but it's a body similar to the judiciary. As put, it is the only body above it that the Integrity Commission takes instruction from, is the judiciary. A body that highly placed, do you not believe that it should face a higher level of scrutiny?
Absolutely, but the Honourable Justice Beswick has left it open. She hasn't closed it on this matter. Her letter ends with all she's asking for is cogent and unequivocal information. No, the question that must be asked, can Senator Morgan, along with his colleagues, provide that information to the Commission so that, her ladyship can act accordingly and the Commission can then take the matter further. Just saying that he's a very good friend of Dr. Campbell, I don't know if that is sufficient for such, a monumental decision to be taken, which would mean that he would have to be fired. So all I'm saying here is we must tread softly, and sometimes diplomacy behind the scenes negotiations would have been better, rather than thrusting this thing into the public domain at a time when partisan, flare-ups are now so common and everybody's pointing fingers at everybody. And I don't know if this issue can be sufficiently dealt with within the court of public opinion. That's my view.
But then I put it to you, Marlon Morgan. Mr. Lloyd B raises a good point regarding what exactly is it that the JLP, or better yet, maybe say the government parliamentarians are after. Would you, and I put it specifically to you, not any other member of the parliamentarians, but you specifically, would you be comfortable as a senator having your statutory declarations and your matters relating to the conduct of your office be scrutinized by Ronif Lawrence if he becomes the permanent appointment as Director of Corruption Prosecutions?
Well, I would respond in the affirmative by saying I would, because the idea is that the gentleman may be eminently qualified to serve as the Director of Corruption Prosecution at the IC. However, having regard to the information that we now have in terms of the close association between this gentleman and a person who has a certain political agenda, that being the PNP's General Secretary, I would perhaps have live and real concerns as to, yes, whether any decision taken by this gentleman in relation to matters brought or referred to his office by the Director of Investigation in relation to me as a parliamentarian is something that does not have untoward considerations operating on his mind. So in short, his sympathies to Dr. Campbell, real or perceived, and or malice or improper motive on his part. And what makes this matter that much more contentious, gentlemen and lady, is that the mere fact that this issue has been raised in the public domain as it has in recent days, it is all the more reason why serious interrogation has to be made by the IC into the incumbency, albeit acting, of Ronnie Florence. Because Ronnie Florence, based on even this very discussion now, may well have reasons to exhibit malice toward JLP parliamentarians, myself included. Now, thankfully, I can speak unequivocally and definitively that I will have and shall have nothing untoward in relation to my stewardship and my financial affairs, certainly in relation to any public office that would cause me, yes, to essentially be in any particular adverse spot. But just to be very clear, the public, I keep coming back to this point, the public has to have a degree of confidence in looking on that, listen, the IC is staffed and outfitted by persons who are operating above the political fray or above the political melee and fracas, using Lloyd B's own words.
Gentlemen, we have to move towards a wrap-up, but as Lloyd B is saying, and as the letter from her ladyship is suggesting, Senator Morgan, the ball is now in the court of, the leaders of government business in the upper and lower house to provide the information, the cogent information, so that process that Senator Morgan you're asking for can be taken to some conclusion.
We appreciate that.
Yes.
We appreciate that, and I trust that Edmund Bartlett and Kamina Johnson-Smith will take the matter under advisement.
There's just one quick question I want to ask, though. I'm not sure about the center, but maybe you're going to let my ignorance. Is it that this gentleman would unilaterally make any decision with respect to your statutory? Is there some way that these things would be sufficiently dealt with by the commission in totality and not just him?
That's an excellent question, Lloyd B. I know it's an excellent question. Keisha Prince Kamika would have brought her professionalism and her capacity and experience as a learned prosecutor to bear in making her determination, yes? However, we see that there are some folks, her former colleagues at the IC, who essentially took umbrage to the very thing that she did. And she did it not in an arbitrary way, but in a painstaking and professional way. I am prepared to submit.
Allegedly, Senator Morgan.
Yes, I think we have to, but there seems to be a lot more that we have to discuss around this issue.
That's an excellent question by Lloyd B just now.
Yes.
Prince Kamika did what she did, and some people took exception and umbrage to it.
So the team is working in different directions in some instances, and perhaps you're suggesting that to clarify and ensure that for the way forward, the team works with more consensus, that the scrutiny is at the highest
level. They must
level.
respect the work of each other, because that is why the IC has been, constituted in the way it has.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Stevens is the Director of Investigations. You can't be the head cook and bottle wash. You can't be the person who is judge, juror, and executioner. You undertake your investigation. You are to do your investigation without malice. Mm-hmm. And, of course, you come up with your findings and you make a referral to the Director of Corruption Prosecution. That ball ends there, because it is now for the Director of Corruption Prosecution to use his or her experience and expertise as a prosecutor to determine and come up with a ruling based on the evidence, not the figment of their imagination. Yes? So I would commend those words this evening to Kevin Stevenson.
But wouldn't any ruling be made be subject to redress?
You have redress by way of judicial reviews. The courts have permitted to seek redress, Lloyd B, as Prime Minister Andrew Holness has done.
Indeed. So we may be beating our head against the wall in the analysis.
No. But and Lloyd B, gentlemen and lady, Lloyd B is making a very excellent point here again, because just for the benefit of the listeners, the rulings of the Director of Corruption Prosecution and indeed any other functionary of the at the IC is of considerable moment, because as we know, separate and apart from successful prosecution, just the mere notion of being charged can be very perilous in the body politic. If the Prime Minister, for example, were to be charged It is something that is of a nature and on a scale that may topple a government. So although there is remedy at the court by way of judicial review, ladies and gentlemen, let's be very clear. The very ruling by the Director of Corruption Prosecution may be of considerable moment because it may cause the position of an incumbent, whether it is opposition leader, prime minister, or a minister of government, yes, to become untenable. So it is not a light matter and a light issue. We have to understand what we're saying here. These are very serious office and very serious powers, folks, are vested in the Integrity Commission. We need to understand that these people make rulings, and the rulings are of considerable moment, as we have seen in the case of Andrew Michael Holness. The director of investigation did a lot of editorializing in his report that was essentially aimed at, in our view, or at least in my view, casting, raising all kinds of issues. And his findings did not establish impropriety on the part of the Prime Minister. He established no impropriety, and yet he did not elect to certify the gentleman's declarations. He instead invoked TAJ and invoked FID. And we believe, as the Prime Minister's judicial action is seeking to do, we believe that the IC, in the case of Kevin Stevenson, acted outside of its remit, acted ultra-vires.
And, well, Marlon, I think you have to be careful, though, because it's the
a charge, Lloyd B, can topple a government. Let us understand that. So Ronnie Florence can charge the Prime Minister tomorrow morning on any matter that comes to his desk that has the effect of making the Prime Minister's position untenable invariably, or any other person, myself included.
And what if it turns out that this is so? Wouldn't his position also become untenable?
Well, there you go. But the damage would have already been done, Lloyd B. Let us understand what is being communicated here.
Gentlemen.
If a person's position becomes untenable based on arbitrary rulings, that's problematic. I'm guided, Siobhan. All the best, my brother.
Thank you, Chef. Thank you, gentlemen. Yes.
That is Senator Marlon Morgan. He is a member of the JLP's Communication Task Force and political commentator and editor-in-chief of the Western Mirror, Lloyd B. Smith. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you, gentlemen.
It's clear that this matter regarding the Integrity Commission is not going to be settled this evening or anytime soon, unfortunately.
Yes.
But more after this break, listeners.
Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, is a financial reporting firm that delivers accounting and compliance services on time. Call us today at 876-908-0486-7. Email us at clientservices@cocnjamaica.com or visit our website at www.cocnjamaica.com. COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Good evening. Not our fight. Jamaica not interested in trade war with U.S. So read the front page headline of the Daily Observer, Thursday, April 10, 2025 edition. In the accompanying story, senior staff reporter Alicia Dunkley-Willis reported on remarks attributed to Industry, Investment and Commerce Minister Senator Aubin Hill, who was speaking at a post-cabinet press briefing at Jamaica House. In the story, Senator Hill is quoted saying, "Thank God, if there's any thanking to be done, that we are at the lower level of the tariff range." End quote. The remarks came in the aftermath of President Donald Trump slapping a 10% tariff on exports to the U.S. from Jamaica and CARICOM sister nations, as well as the just concluded successful staging of Expo Jamaica at the National Arena. The minister, a persistent advocate of correcting Jamaica's trade imbalance with its trading partners, seemed more interested in focusing on the opportunities arising from the latter, Expo Jamaica, than being drawn into public controversy with the irascible Mr. Trump. In stark contrast, former Prime Minister Bruce Golding, in a column titled, "Why Don't We Learn History's Lessons?", which was carried on the editorial page of the Sunday Observer, April 13, 2025 edition, took President Trump to task for being, quote-unquote, oblivious to the lessons of history. Golding did not mince words. I quote in part, "Trump's tariff strategy is inane. Jamaica cannot be accused of indulging in unfair labor practices. Our labor regulations are far more stringent than those of the U.S. Nor can our trade balance be a problem for the U.S. since we import from them 4 times more than they import from us." End quote from newspaper column written by former Prime Minister Bruce Golding. Not to be outdone, Ambassador Byron Blake, a former Assistant Secretary General of CARICOM and a Jamaican, at the risk of being an irritant to the Colossus to the north, defended the honor of Jamaica and CARICOM. Writing in the April 23, 2025 Sunday Gleaner, and clearly playing up on the title of Trump's bestseller book, The Art of the Deal, he used as a caption, "Donald Trump's tariff debacle, the art of how not to negotiate." In school teacher-like fashion, he gave a tongue-lashing, much to the delight of the anti-Trump faction. So who is right in the differing approach toward addressing the Trump trade tariffs? One instinctively wants Jamaica to be the little David who delivers a deadly blow to the imposing Goliath, America. One remembers, though, the defiant rhetoric of Michael Manley. In a January 5, 1977 speech, he famously said, "We are the masters of our house, and in our house there shall be no other master but ourselves. Above all, we are not for sale." End quote. Jamaica paid and is still paying for that flight of fancy in a hegemonistic world dominated by the U.S. Senator Hill, a straight talker who picks his fights well, no doubt remembers old-time people used to say, "Cockroach no business in a foul fight." And if your hand catching a lion mouth, take time dry it out. Think on these things.
Produced by Agency for Inner City Renewal, AIR, and recorded in the Jamming Studio Trenchtown, a breath of fresh air bringing change to the inner city.
The real attempt at grappling with high debt, high interest rate, this vicious cycle created by the PNP, started with the Bruce Golding-led administration of 2007 to 2011. Indeed, we fathered the deep structural reforms needed to break the PNP-created debt crisis. The debt inherited from the PNP had reached unsustainable levels, and it was under the leadership of Bruce Golding and Audley Shaw Manayard, supported by enlightened and patriotic members of the private sector and reasonable unions, that the first structured debt exchange was engineered, JDX. This pulled Jamaica from the brink of another financial collapse by successfully reducing Jamaica's interest costs, extending debt maturity, improving debt sustainability, and giving the country the credibility to approach the IMF. We put in place the fiscal responsibility framework, which enhanced transparency, accountability, and reporting on public finances and placed limits on the fiscal deficit. This was the basis for the fiscal rule legislation and all the other reforms we have today. We took tough steps to divest loss-making public entities such as the Sugar Company and Air Jamaica, which under the PNP racked up huge debts and operating losses carried over from the 18.5 years of poor management and lack of superintendence of public bodies. And when we were the opposition, we did our part in supporting and developing many nascent measures, including working assiduously on every piece of legislation required to meet the IMF timelines. I gave direct instructions to my members of the House and the Senate that we must not hold up any of the IMF bills. We were a responsible and constructive father, even in opposition. We acted in the interest of Jamaica's economic recovery. In everything we did, we chose Jamaica over narrow political partisan gain. No one on this side said that the PNP did not contribute to the national effort to restructure and reform the economy and bring down the debt. As recently as November last year at the launch of our Next Chapter policy pivot, I said, let me express my deepest gratitude to all who played a role in this transformation. Leaders from both sides of the political aisle, business leaders, our civil service, unions, members of civil society, and most importantly, the people of Jamaica. I want to specially recognize and thank the Honorable Bruce Golding, former Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Portia Simpson-Miller, former Prime Minister. There's a running joke between myself and the member from East Kingston and Port Royal. You know, he is her adopted first son, and I am her adopted and reclaimed second son. You remember I was disowned for a little period of time. but the member from East Kingston and Port Royal know that we made up. So it was very easy for me, with no malice or ill feeling or ill will, to acknowledge the work and contribution of the Most Honorable Portia Simpson-Miller. The Honorable Peter Phillips, former leader of the opposition and Minister of Finance. Honorable Audley Manayard Shaw, former Minister of Finance. Nigel Clark, former Minister of Finance. Richard Biles, Governor of the Bank of Jamaica and former Chairman of the Economic Policy Oversight Committee, EPOC. Keith Duncan, who took over as Chairman of EPOC after Mr. Biles. All the members, and I'm eternally and always grateful to all the members of the National Partnership Council. But most of all, I want to thank the people of Jamaica for their patience, resilience, courage, and sacrifice. Jamaica's turnaround would have been impossible without the willingness of the Jamaican people to endure the hardships that they had to bear. This is my public statement for the public record as to how we on this side characterize this period of economic recovery. This falsehood and attempt at whitewashing history, this kind of revisionism is unnecessary, indeed undignified.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Revamp your space with Unique Living sleek fixed and sliding shower panels, shower systems and faucets, stylish vanities, LED and non-LED mirrors, basins and kitchen sinks, closet and storage solutions, hanging aids, and more. Available in different finishes and sizes to match your style. Transform your space and visit us today at shop number 6, 30 Dunrobin Avenue, Kingston 10. Call us at 876-755-3661 or visit our website at uniquelivingja.com to shop.
Multi-link, access every time, everywhere I go. Multi-link, 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use multi-link. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere. Spend while supporting the economy.
Look for the multi-link logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network.
Multi-link, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my multi-link?
Are you ready for something mega?
Spend $6,500 or more before GCT, drop your entry in the box and you can win a 2025 Hyundai Tucson. It's the Mega Wheels Tour promotion, April 5th to September 28th. Second prize, a $50,000 shopping spree every month for a year. Third prize, a $30,000 shopping spree every month for a year. Brought to you by Hyundai, Restaurant, Heineken, True Milk, Grace, Walker's Wood, Downing, CPJ Daiquiri, and Carryburst. Choose Concentrate. Only at Megamart. Locations island-wide. Megamart, best value by far. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming, and Lotteries Act.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. It's about 30 minutes left in the program, and the numbers are 630-937-124 and 618-8255. You can come chat with us. Richie, I hear you're on the line. Good evening.
Good evening, Richie.
Yes,
Hi.
good evening. Remind me your co-host's name?
It is Professor Donna Hope.
You can't just say
Good
Prof
evening,
Hope. Prof Hope. That's a Prof Hope. Yes, or Miss Hope. Yes, we've got with that.
When the news break that Mrs. Prince Kamika cannot reapply for a job, I called a lady friend, and I said it to her. I said, it's not true. I said, 5 o'clock, she will bring it. She said, I can't believe, I would not believe. So I will have to listen to TV news. I said, it is true, but then swap Black Folks Monkey. Because the Chief Justice was there, and they talk about the illicit six. And Margot have been holding the hammer in the Andrew Willis with it. Because none of them has done that side, and JLP supporters, and Andrew is one of them. They did not stop him from saying it. So from there, I just look at it and said, this man is no different from the Chief Justice. They are just lying. I don't believe, because she is the one who prevent them from saying that Andrew is a thief. Because if they had ruled, all of them say, yes, you steal the money. The next thing we have to resign, you know. And they would use you to bring him down, and he would have to call election. That was the plan. It didn't happen. They have been doing these things for the longest while. Next thing they do, under the PNP administration, they deliberately destroy the economy to a point where gangs reach up to 350. And Jamaica was known as the murder capital of the world. And this government is the one that brings down the gangs. Yet, Margot and the PNP go ahead and carry the government to court to get rid of SOE, knowing it's only 14,000 police was in the country at that time, and they couldn't. That was just a dent to fight crime. So what the plan was, if they get rid of SOE, crime would have to increase, and when crime increase, they would use it to bring down the government to election. These are the policies they're playing. So in my opinion, you see, the so-called Intel Commission, these people, not one that they need to scrap. If this is a set of people they have there, they need to get rid of completely, regardless of we need it. You see, the so-called glad clause that they have there, it need to go as well, because of it, nobody can question them, so they can tell any amount of lies, and people believe. We need to get rid of these set of people. If we can't get some people with justice, they need to just get rid of it at done, even though we need it.
All right, Richie. I'm glad that you said that this is your opinion, because I will have to depart with you. I would hate to think any member of our political directorate would be so interested in working against the betterment of the country that they would deliberately, as you said, try to undermine the crime-fighting effort. So I'm going to take that as your opinion and leave it at that, Richie, please.
Listen to me. It was only 14,000 police in the country.
All right, Richie. I hear you. And as I said, I'm not taking away your opinion. It's just I'm going to depart with you on that opinion. That is all. Can we accept that?
Well, listen to me. I bet you majority of people will agree with me.
We have to agree to disagree, Richie, but thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Okay, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right.
We have Carl on the line.
Good evening, Miss Hope.
Good evening, Carl. Good evening.
Evening, Carl.
Yes.
Yeah, if you hear all the time people used to say you can't throw wine in a dirty glass.
I think it's a dirty skin or something like that, right?
Well, wine skin.
Old wine in it's a new wine in
old
an
wine
old skin. Yes, that is it.
New wine
right.
Right.
When them did appoint the new commissioner head, the rest of the board should have dissolved. And she picked people outside of all of those. The first thing This man where did a Peter Philip advisor should not be there after when he head left other there. He should not be there. Greg Christie might have 3 or 4 months left. Should ask him to step aside. And knew all of this problem that we are facing now. Is this almost the same set of people that was there with when he Pantana, when he that was there that went to the parliament and
remember,
Carl,
yes,
their appointments and the staggered ending of their appointments is as a result of the law.
I understand that, Chevron, I'm not cutting on you, Chevron. I understand that. But Chevron, from what happened for the last 3.5 years with that whole body, from the head was going, the rest of them should have stepped aside. Dissolve the board. All of this wouldn't come up back now.
But one of the things we'll call is that in a lot of instances where boards are concerned or bodies like these, we tend to have a staggered shift of people. So we don't get rid of everybody. Yes.
I hope I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a check, Greg Christie. Anyhow, before I forgot, keep your ears very close to the ground this week to next week. A press conference is about to release something. You remember one story that happened in a New Kingston? Keep it. That's all I am saying on that. Keeping your ears closed.
So who leaking information to you?
Carl, information. Carl, you can bust it on air. Yes.
You hear what me are telling us then. And all you see the lady where them did push out. I will ask her to see if she can hold her asylum somewhere before that press conference came. That's where I'm leaving it tonight. That's saying nothing much more on that.
You clearly have your sources.
4 people did decide to send Andrew Holness to prison, and people never have them ways. And when a lot of us did that telling a long time, say the Integrity Commission bought out, tell we say how foolish is that. Well, something is about to leach now. Getting yourself ready. Good night. Good night.
All right, Carl. Thank you so much. Yes, indeed.
Good night.
Good night, Carl. Thank you so much. Yes.
Well, we just have a little bit of information coming in here. It's an update regarding the selection exercise for Western Westmoreland part of the JLP. It says the Secretariat of the Jamaica Labour Party intends to refer Dr. Garfield Jones to its selection committee and Garfield James to its selection committee and central executive as its candidate for Western Westmoreland. The referral is to be made following a selection exercise in the constituency on Sunday, which resulted in Dr. James emerging with a majority of the votes. It says the Jamaica Labour Party General Secretary Dr. Horace Chang is thanking the 2 participants in the democratic process, Dr. James and Moreland Wilson.
The party is also thankful to all workers and delegates who participated in the exercise. Dr. Chang says he's confident that unity will prevail among the Jamaica Labour Party family in Western Westmoreland. The Jamaica Labour Party General Secretary also says he remains confident in the candidate selection process being deployed by the party, which presents an opportunity for party workers and delegates to make their voices heard.
It says the Jamaica Labour Party General Secretary also says he remains confident in the candidate selection process being... Oh, sorry, I'm repeating that.
Processes.
It says the processes involving a constituency audit, polling, consultation with the workers and delegates, and a selection exercise. Dr. Chang notes that the processes reiterate that democracy is alive and well in the Jamaica Labour Party. So
there we
it would seem that matter is settled.
Yes.
The caretaker and the prospective candidate for the Jamaica Labour Party for Western Westmoreland going forward is going to be Dr. Garfield James.
So we have Faithful on the line. Good evening, Faithful.
Good evening, Prof. Good evening, Siobhan.
Yes.
I think the chairman for the IC is a breath of fresh air. So far, I'm very much impressed with the ruling and everything. The case that you have in your cover story this evening, and Nadine Spence and Hugh Small, when Mr. Golden said in the parliament that he agreed that for us to become a republic, and that they both agree for us to move away to become a republic, Was it the fact that it was that twinning between the Pretty Council and the removing of the monarch?
I know from the outset that Madam Marlene Malahoo Ford had suggested that they did not want to move along that path, that they wanted to have it as a phased matter, with the matters requiring a referendum being handled first. I know that was the belief and I won't say the agreement, but that was what was put forward by the government at the outset. And one would assume that was the process that they agreed upon on the part of the People's National Party when they elected their members to be placed on the Constitutional Reform Committee.
Because I remember everybody was very jubilant and said, yes, it's time to move away, time to get this thing done.
Yes.
And I think Mr. Godin is speaking to the parliament, said, let us move to the thing that we agree on. Not only him, but several other persons. Let us move to the thing that we agree on. And what I know everybody agree on, that we should become a republic.
Yes.
Because in my mind, right, I'm from the Caribbean Court of Justice now, but in my mind, the Pretty Council was always a thorny issue. And so they decided, in my mind, from the set goal, was that we're going to move to a republic, and then in the second stance, as it was told to us, that we're going to take up the Caribbean Court, we're going to take up the Pretty Council next. But so I was surprised when Mr. Smart said that they take it out at the moment, and that's a called the thorny issue. But
that's not what he's suggesting is that he believes it would be impractical to try and separate the two issues and proceed with them separately. That is his concern. But my counter to that is, if that was the concern going in on his part, as in K.C. Small's part, why take part in the process at all?
Right.
But I think the point you're making, though, is that we all had been working on the ground, people on the ground, with the idea that the process, there was some consensus, and that the process was going forward in a positive sense, and we will see some resolution. Isn't that what you got from the, yes?
That's what I got from that we're going to do this thing in phases.
Yes.
It's the first I'm hearing this in that when Mr. Smart said that they took it out at the point in time. That's why I asked the question. When Mr. Godin speaking in the Parliament, was it deal? Was the deal when they said let us move on the thing that we agree on? Was it after that they took out the account of Mr. Small and they British Council from the Republic?
No.
That's what I'm clear. And at the end of the day, we can use all the legislation we want. It's going to come down to politics. Because if the two parties have to come to agreement, and if they don't come to agreement, then it's not going to happen.
Well, the Constitution sets it up that way, We can't move without the Constitution being ratified, and so the Constitution sets it up. But what do the people want, though? What do the people want?
But what is the sense of this dancing around?
But I mean, at the end of the day, that is another matter that we seem to not have any agreement on. Should we put it to the people? Should we just proceed without consulting the people as to what they want as their final appellate court? All of these matters are unsettled. And I just feel that if we're going to then, even if you have this principle that you feel that the matters are inexorably entwined, why would we want to delay the removal of the monarch on a basis where we do not have consensus, where we seem to be torn in two separate directions as to what should be the final appellate court? Why would we then make that essentially the final decider as to when we leave the Queen's domain?
King's domain at this point. The Queen left, and we are now with the King, and we're still struggling with the matter.
At this point, Professor Hope, when we do inevitably try to get back to this process, it could be a Queen again for all I know.
And that's the point. Yes.
Because I think I heard Diane with it first, and at first I was very happy and said yes, we're gonna do this and we're gonna get along with it. But I think I heard Diane with it first, and Diane said, "Boy, she's not too sure if in our lifetime it's going to become a reality." Because the way we operate, everybody wants a pound of flesh.
And I think also, that people want to be the group under whose leadership of government it happened. That impression is there.
So I don't know what Mr. Suma was playing. I tried to pretend that at the end of the day, he's going to come down to two things. Both the opposition and the government. So he's going to come down to politics. He's going to come down to politics and not politics at the end of the day.
The people of Jamaica, want this decolonization process to be finished, because this is something that is important to people of Jamaica. Yes, our identity revolves around it. We want to feel that as Jamaican people, we are now fully sovereign. This is something that is important to us because we have a lot of places in the Caribbean that are still colonies and dependencies of a lot of European countries. We have done a lot of work, and we really need to push from the ground up to ensure that our parliamentarians on both sides of the House, opposition and government, do what is necessary for the people of Jamaica. Very important.
I love the way that Nadine said it. I think Nadine said the right thing. When he said that all over the Caribbean, and it's going to be a thorny issue when they take both of them together. The Pretty Council and removing this. I think the best thing to done it in phases. And if we cannot trust each other to do it one way or another, do we expect that election can now, the PNP win whoever win, that the Labour Party in opposition, they're just going to fall in line and do what they say?
Unlikely, Faithful. That's another problem. But thank you for the call,
Thank
Faithful.
you so much for the call, Faithful, yes.
Cleveland, good evening.
Hi, Cleveland.
Yes,
Hi, Cleveland.
Mr. Hope and Siobhan. What I remember about the discussion in the Constitution, it seemed like it was going quite well. And just as them to sign off, apparently the opposition just tell the two people that were there not to sign. And there's where they break down. Right?
Yes.
Because he wasn't even supposed to be at the meeting and him end up there. Mr. Golden. You see? And start muddle up the whole thing then. Because since as they agreed to do it in a phased way, why couldn't continue that way? You see? But they want to push the Caribbean court down our throat. Because it suits them. But we see a lot of examples that the Caribbean is not together. Lot of examples.
What do you mean by that when you say the Caribbean is not together?
They're not together, Miss Hope. They're not together, you know that. Barbados, they don't just have a face card, they're not really supporting us. Trinidad, all of them, you see, they're not really working together. You see, and I don't see that coming for now.
Well, we have a responsibility.
Then just that piecemeal thing.
But you agree that we have a responsibility in Jamaica as Jamaicans to move our country to the next level?
Yes. But it mustn't be political or to suit one or the other.
We can live in
Must
hope.
do the right thing.
We can live in hope about it not being political. We can live in hope.
The thing is, I understand the need for consensus, but this whole notion that it must not be political, it's a political process. So I've always found it curious when people say it should not be political. I understand what they're saying, What they're saying is that it should be a bipartisan move forward. But I think it's an unavoidably political issue.
Yes.
Especially when we have such fundamental differences about which direction we want to take the country in terms of the final appellate court. There is going to be a certain level of political consideration in that. But I thought that we were working toward a consensus on those political matters and how they would be dealt with.
It did reach far.
But I think, in the history of the constitutional reform process, this is the furthest that we have reached. So we have to give ourselves kudos for that and hope the next round we can carry it to the ultimate conclusion. Because we really got very far this time.
And if you notice it,
yes,
those two representatives for the PNP was in that committee. You don't hear another word from them from that day, Mr. Golden take it over. Not a word from them. You don't hear what was their understanding and so on. It was gone under the ground. I was in the news from last night, I think, and I see this one of these councillors in St. Anne blasting must be one of the top civil servants in the municipality and telling her to go because the people then don't love you. You know, if that did happen with Mr. Warmington also, everybody would be out this evening talking about it. I noticed that I don't hear it come over in the news or anything. What happened to Nationwide? I never see it. I hear about it.
I've not heard about that one, but yes. It's political. It's political silly season, so a lot of things are going to happen.
No, but the lady is not a political person. Mm-hmm. I think she's one of the civil servants there.
Yes.
You see, you know those people who run the municipality. There's 5 o'clock. I don't forget what they have put them as. But what I'm saying, you don't hear no one come up with it. And call out to them, and I hope by tomorrow the ladies them coming out saying something.
All right, Cleveland. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Yes, we may hear. We have Anne on the line. Good evening, Anne. Good evening.
Hi. Good evening, Dr. Hope and Siobhan.
Good evening, Anne.
Good evening.
Okay, I want to just add my little 2 cents with what is happening with the IC. And I really think that the current talk of the happenings at the IC, no one has addressed the elephant in the china shop, which is, I agree that Jamaica is a small country and by extension the Caribbean, so we will know people who are in high places having gone to school with them and be even friends. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the PNP made the IC a political football and used it for the past 3 years, where you had various persons in the PNP preempting what the IC was doing, and therefore brought the institution into disrepute. And we should probably encourage our politicians not to do that. Do not politicize these bodies that are supposed to be impartial, because had they not done that, then Dayton could be friends with whoever and it not be a problem. And it's not just the politicians that did it, but what Mr. Christie did as well did not enhance the impartiality of what the IC should be. And in terms of justice and all of that, and fairness, the IC ought to be above reproach. So nobody is questioning whether or not Mr. Lawrence is capable or not, but the mere fact that the PNP politicized or used it on their campaign on the political platform, that is what is the problem.
So Anne, you're saying that the Pandora's box was opened and we can't close it, or we are having a difficulty closing it.
We're going to have a difficulty closing it, and in doing that, it is sad that somebody's professional reputation and ethics and all of that is coming to bear. That should not have been so. Yes, the PNP, when they did what they did about the illicit 6 and 8 and everything else, and they're coming out to this and they're coming out to that, they should have left it alone and allowed the IC to do its job. That's my opinion.
I hear you, Andy, but let me just say that I am at the very least comforted by the response of the new commissioner, in that the very least she acknowledged the concern and said she is willing to look into the matter, provided that evidence can be forthcoming on the issue. I suppose this can only be said as my opinion, but I suspect that the former chairman would not have been as accommodating in his response had it been brought before him.
It's admirable what she's trying to do, but I don't know if she's going to accomplish much, because I don't know if any compelling evidence can be brought that will satisfy JLP supporters, PNP supporters, and no P supporters. So perhaps we should just try to step away from all of that, a clean slate, and we start to rebuild the integrity, in quotation, of the IC.
When you say step away from all of that, Anne, what do you mean? Because you say rebuild, step away from all of that, start afresh?
Step away meaning, no, that's not what I mean. Not appoint anybody that has clear connections with any political figure. We all have our political leanings, whether or not we want to admit it or not, right? But we should not have one that the entire country knows about. I should be able to do my job and my professional integrity not be questioned based on who I know, where I work, and who I'm associated with.
I find it strange that you limit that matter to the Integrity Commission alone, because I've known over the years where the People's National Party has attacked several individuals in certain positions based on their past political and personal affiliations. So, as I said, I believe last week Friday, I'm not taken aback by the Jamaica Labour Party using a similar approach when it comes to certain matters, because this has always been a tactic used in terms of the People's National Party.
And what the Jamaica Labour Party did, they have every right to do it based on what has transpired over the last couple of years. Yes? So, as Dr. Hooper said, I said the Pandora's box was open, and it's gonna be very difficult to close it.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your call, and have a good evening, indeed. Yes. And Siobhan, this is an issue that is going to continue to take up space in the public domain because people are interested in the outcome, you think?
Oh, definitely, especially so close to an election. This is going to be a very touchy matter. I don't know if there's going to be any Integrity Commission reports coming between now and the date of that election, but I can imagine if such reports come forthwith, they're going to be heavily scrutinized by the public and the political directorate in terms of what they impact. But ultimately, listeners and viewers, as I said, I am still comforted based on the behavior of the current chairman, because she at the very least, was accommodating in her response. And though I am concerned with this matter about her suggesting that she needs more evidence to be provided outside of the remit of the commission, because I don't know how you can expect the public to provide that in additional evidence, because the entire commission still acts in a somewhat insular and isolated manner from the rest of the Jamaican people and the political directorate. So any additional evidence that would need to come to light would have to be ferreted out in terms of an internal investigation. So I don't know how this call for, well, you need to provide more information to us for us to go further. I don't know if that is the right approach to take. But at the very least, she did not simply shut the door and said there's nothing to see here.
So we are at a stalemate for right now.
Precisely. But that's where we have to leave it, listeners. It is 7:59, and thank you for joining us this evening. Mikkel, Scorpion, Andrew Shady, Juliet Sanchez,
Marcos. We have a lot of people there. Man, what is Neely, year 12, Rob? There's a lot of people there.
Nelly.
Is Nelly?
Yes.
Leroy, Rocky,
Jacqueline,
Jacqueline, yes.
All of you, thank you for joining us. Thanks to our super producer, Dana Davey, our technical operator, Andrew the Glenn Boogs Anderson, and all my friends and compatriots in the newsroom led by the capable Cara Powell. I'm Siobhan Campbell. Thank you for joining us.
And I'm Donna Hope. Have a good evening.
Who shops at Creative Building Finishes? You, the homeowner who creates luxurious spaces with our floor and wall tiles.